You're listening to the Morning Blaze with Doc Thompson podcast.
On September 13th through the 15th, make history. Join me, Glenn Beck, and attend the inaugural Covenant America celebration, held on the beautiful Ozark Ranch just outside of Branson, Missouri. I'll be keynoting the event on Saturday night, and the event will also include 2 days of the best Branson entertainment and other patriotic and inspiring speakers. Of course, Sunday's going to be reserved for worship services. The event is sponsored by the producer of the new movie Red Wing. It'll emphasize the vital importance of the Declaration of Independence. Every signer of the Declaration of Independence, as well as the indispensable man, George Washington, adamantly affirmed the protection of divine providence. They pledged everything, their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor. Covenant America will explore who America is and why Israel is more than just an ally. Learn how the grievances of the Declaration of Independence apply to us today. Tickets for this event are going fast. Order yours at covenantamerica.us. That's covenantamerica.us.
The Blaze. This is the Blaze Radio Network. Warning, the following program has been cited for its copious inclusion of the word freedom, and therefore has been deemed a concern. Listening may subject you to additional scrutiny by the IRS, TSA, DOJ, DHS, CIA, NSA, DNC, FCC, USPS, FBI.
This is the sound of common sense defending freedom. The Morning Blaze with Doc Thompson.
Monday night, Skip and I had the opportunity to break bread with our buddy Stuntbrain. Stuntbrain, a.k.a. Michael Palka from the Blaze newsroom.
Yes, indeed.
Mike will be on with us at about 8:30 this morning, and I hope you have an opportunity to listen. He usually updates us throughout the week about some of the stories they're working on in the newsroom. But specifically today, I'm going to ask him about something that he told us about on Monday night. Mike often takes the train up and down the Eastern Seaboard into New York City. And he told the story of Monday morning having an odd experience. For when he got on the train, Amtrak, he noticed something that he had never noticed before. Amtrak had a mobile command center set up. He thought that was odd. He didn't know they had a mobile command center. And why was it set up all of a sudden Monday morning? And he quickly put two and two together and said, this must be in response to those claims of a terror threat possibility.
Yeah, heightened security warnings, embassies closed, everyone's freaking out.
He told us the story that on the trains, there was an armed guard in every compartment and multiple dog officer teams up and down the aisles throughout the entire ride. Multiple teams. He said he recognized the different dogs and the different officers going car to car, up and down. The dogs presumably sniffing for any type of contraband, an explosive device, a weapon. This was his experience. Now, last night he sent a picture out. He tweeted a picture of the mobile command center that he saw on Monday from Amtrak. You can go back through. It's probably only a couple of back. It's at Doc Thompson Show. I'll retweet it in a couple of minutes, but it's at Doc Thompson Show. Take a look at this mobile command center. You saw the picture, right?
I did, yeah. I retweeted it as well last night.
Amtrak, what type of transportation is that, Skip?
Amtrak is a train line, system of trains.
Like a locomotive.
And rail, yeah.
And rail.
Low-speed rail.
Their command center was a bus. Isn't that an admission that a bus is a slightly better option when it comes to transportation, or just for mobile command centers?
At least for a mobile command center. I don't know if you can go as far as, say, for transportation itself.
Interesting. Greyhound has a locomotive for its mobile command center. I don't know. Seems a little bit off.
A little bit, yeah.
See, we like the freedom that a bus offers us with a mobile command center because we're not tied to the rail then.
You know, though, a mobile command center on the rail would at least be able to go anywhere an Amtrak train can go. That's
True.
not necessarily true of a bus.
But wouldn't I have the same expectations then when I'm looking for a transportation option? I can go by rail or I can go by bus that doesn't have those same rail limitations.
Exactly.
Seems a little off that Amtrak would have a bus for a mobile command center.
Well,
nevertheless.
And there's going to be areas that, I not necessarily on that route, but areas of the country Amtrak runs that you're not going to be able to get a bus to.
Such as? What do you mean?
On long trips north to south, there's got to be areas with bridges and stuff that a bus
I see what you're
physically would not be able to get to.
Not right on that track, but eventually, yeah. I mean, you could get to it. There's roads just about everywhere in America now. It's not like it was in the 1800s or something like that. So Michael Palka sends this picture out. Like I said, we'll retweet it in a minute, but you can go back and search for it at Doc Thompson Show, at Skip Lacombe. While you're there, go ahead and comment on any of the stories we're talking about today, and we'll respond to some of those both on the air and direct tweet. But this is what's going on. The mobile command center from TSA or from Amtrak was not the only additional law enforcement. TSA was there as well. Were you aware of that?
No, I was not.
I got information yesterday morning, and then the New York Post ran a story about it as well. New York Times ran a story about it as well. That commuter train stations all across America were filled with armed squads of men and women in bulletproof vests, making their way through the crowds. These were TSA agents at train stations. See, people forget, and I point this out from time to time, that TSA that screens you at the airport or whatever, stands for Transportation Security Administration. Not people screening at airports. The A isn't for airports or something like that. The T is what you have to remember. Transportation Security Administration, meaning their very name doesn't limit them to airports. And their duties have not limited them to airports as well. They deployed all across America, train, bus, other stations, because of this, I guess, terrorist threat, teams, mobile teams, all over to look for any potential threat. The TSA's teams are called Visible Intermodal Prevention and Response Squads. Visible Intermodal Prevention and Response, or VIPR.
Viper. The Viper teams.
Folks, have you seen these deputy dog-looking people at the airport? Have you seen these TSA agents? These TSA agents at the airport, if you've had experience with them, which I have at this point every couple of weeks now, you'll have to admit it's like deputy dog. It's like Barney. In fact, Barney Fife should get more respect than the TSA agents. These people are the people who couldn't make it as mall cops. These are people that Paul Blart's like, dude, seriously, you want to be a member of our team? Maybe with some more schooling, some more training, and about 50 more IQ points. And yet they're calling them. These people that Barney Fife is laughing at, that Paul Blart is mocking, that could not make it as a mall cop, that do not even have to have, and in many cases do not have, a high school diploma. Yeah, that's right. They don't have a high school diploma yet. They're calling their response teams Viper.
It makes it sound a lot better, though. Makes it sound as though they're actually doing something or accomplishing something or have some sort of importance.
See, it's a visible intermodal prevention and response team. Skip Lacombe, my producer, has done extensive research into acronyms and also the government ginning up support for different agencies by or laws based on acronyms.
Yes.
What do you think happened first? In this specific case, the visible intermodal prevention and response team, which do you think they came up with first, the acronym or the name of the agency? Where did they start? Did they start with a cool name or start with a cool abbreviation?
They probably wanted to have a cool abbreviation first.
Right, which could see intermodal, really?
What does that even mean?
I have no clue.
Visible? Is there a non-visible intermodal response and prevention team?
Oh,
Is there an invisible?
The IPPER
The IPPER
squads?
team?
I don't know. That's a good. The iVipers?
Oh, goodness.
I don't know. See, Vipers bad, but the invisible ones. That's
the hidden, the hypers. Those are the ones who are bouncing off the walls, had a little too much sugar.
Seriously, come over here. I've got to screen you. Come on, let's go. Come on. Yeah, none of those exist.
What's in the bag? What's in the bag? What do you got there? You can't have that. You can't have that. Look at my dog. Oh, Sniffy, it's over there. Oh, the hyper team. It's the hyper team from the TSA now.
I don't think I have ever in my life used the word intermodal. Seriously, I really don't. And if I have, it was only as something I shared on the air that was written in a news story or in reference. Intermodal, I don't think that has ever been uttered by me before. The other thing is, Skip, it's the TSA that is investigating. They're trying to prevent terrorism. Why would you want to put in their name visible? I mean, yeah, that can be a deterrent too, but wouldn't you also want invisible?
They don't
hidden?
tell you about the invisible ones, though. They're like the ninjas.
The TSA ninjas, is that it?
Exactly.
We're joking about it, but I'll bet you that's an acronym.
You probably are right.
Seriously, the something invisible and in judicious agency. We'll have to work on that. Yeah, the Viper squads were deployed all across America. The TSA Viper squads. Was Goose there? Was Merlin? Was he there? Was Viper? See, I'm Viper.
Sounds very good, though.
Oh, these people. I'm Viper, man. You don't understand. They're going around telling people. They're acting like these guys are Army Rangers or something. They're acting like they're Marine Recon or Navy SEALs.
Well, and you want to talk about giving them some sort of a false sense of importance, too. These guys are strapped in bulletproof vests and are carrying weapons as well.
Oh, yeah.
Imagine your TSA agents at the airport with a sidearm and a bulletproof vest.
John Pistol said, our mandate is to provide security and counterterrorism operations for all high-risk transportation targets, not just airports and aviation. He said the Viper teams are a big part of that. The Viper teams, this is according to John Pistol, the head of the TSA there. See, the problem with that is, yes, Amtrak is transportation, but music festivals and sporting events and rodeos, those are not transportation sites, right? They have nothing to do with transportation other than you have to transport yourself to get there, right? Yet TSA has expanded, not just over the weekend to the Amtrak and that. They've been doing security at sporting events, music festivals, rodeos. They were at both the Democrat and Republican national conventions.
Why the hell are we paying for that as security? They're the transportation, but I mean, at a
you have to drive yourself to get there, right?
But no, I mean, all that does is, for instance, like at sporting events, that whoever is putting that on doesn't have to pay for. Are they paying TSA? Are they picking up the bill for that?
I have no idea. You're right. That's a big question.
Security.
Are we paying for it if it's a music festival?
I would think that we are. Private security generally is had at those types of things.
See, John Pistol just said it's high-risk transportation targets. High-risk transportation. It's not. They've expanded to all of these different places. If they can expand to music festivals and rodeos and that, under the guise of what? It's a gathering or that you transport yourself there. Either way, they could be at your house tomorrow. They could be at your job tomorrow.
At your prayer meeting, because it's a gathering.
It's a gathering. I mean, how is a prayer meeting different than a music festival, a sporting event, or a rodeo as far as the structure goes? Doesn't matter why you're going there. They're not saying, well, we need to go there because people are going to be rowdy. They have no business being anywhere. First of all, they shouldn't exist. But anywhere beyond transportation sites? And what are you looking for? Wait a second. They were on Amtrak. And they were on the trains. So you're going to stop the train from blowing up. What about everywhere else in America? And if you're going to stop the train from blowing up by having people on the train, aren't they missing something? the possibility of blowing up any length of the track? Unless these Viper teams were walking the track, you've missed something here. Great, you have them on the train. How about the bridges that the train goes over? How about the track? Doesn't that make a little more sense if you're trying to create terror? So I can as a terrorist, I can get on the train where there's a lot of people around me, regardless of Viper teams, where people could say, "Oh, what's that guy doing with that large box of fertilizer and also kerosene? What's he doing there?" Or I could be alone, out along some darkened stretch of track. Forget the Viper teams. Yet, if I blow up the rail moments before the train gets there, I'm thinking that train might possibly derail, causing a big problem. Still killing all of those people potentially. And also, if you blow up the track and it derails, it doesn't just damage the train. Those cars become projectiles, unlike blowing up one individual boxcar. So, also, once again, ineffective. See, the TSA has started their random searches, as they call it, special needs or administrative searches. And this is the reason they say they are exempt from probable cause. Are you listening to this? They're claiming they're exempt from probable cause, checking all of these places that I just mentioned, because they further the government's need to prevent terrorist attacks, they say. They're claiming they're exempt from probable cause. See, at the airport, they say that because, well, number one, you don't have to fly, and number two, someone could use that as a weapon. We've seen that in the past. But you're now exempt from music festivals or any place else because security trumps that? This is very dangerous. This is just the beginning of this, folks. I got more to share. I'm going to get a quick break in. I'd love to hear your comments on it. 888-900-3393, 888-900-3393, or tweet right now at Doc Thompson Show and at Skip Lacombe, and we'll share some of your comments. This is The Morning Blaze.
The Morning Blaze with Doc Thompson.
Mercury.
The Morning Blaze with Doc Thompson.
All right, you can go ahead and tweet at us at Doc Thompson Show or at Skip Lacombe. We got some coming in right now.
Yeah, Jason just tweeted the hashtag what I learned today. Ninja equals National Invisible Nocturnal Justice Agency. National Invisible Nocturnal Justice Agency.
It's the TSA Ninjas.
We also had a Skip to Zip chiming in. Coming soon from the director of the terminal, Crouching Stewardess, Hidden Viper.
Steve in Wilmington, you're on the Morning Blaze. You saw them? You saw these people out there?
Yeah, hey guys, love the show.
Thank you.
Yeah, they were there Monday and Tuesday both. There was the mobile command center. It had cameras on it and everything. There was also 5 officers outside of TSA with bulletproof vests on, and then at the command center right behind it was a TSA truck.
What did the TSA truck look like?
Honest to God, it looked like a 1990s truck with the word or with the letters TSA on it.
Wow.
It was like a rented truck almost.
Now, when you saw that, did that make you feel more secure, or it didn't really matter?
No. Just a show of presence, basically. It made me feel odd, like, what are they doing there now when they haven't been there the whole year?
Steve, see, that's the reason I asked. One of their big pushes on this is that it's visible, and therefore people feel more secure. But see, I'm with you. It doesn't make me feel more secure. It makes me like some stuff is going down, and maybe I shouldn't be riding today. Steve, thanks so much for the call. I really appreciate it, and thanks so much for the support of the program. 888-900-3393 if you want to join it, or tweet at Doc Thompson Show and at Skip Lacombe. We have more to come. There's many more details about TSA, how they've expanded and are going to continue to expand, coming up next on The Morning Blaze.
The Morning Blaze with Doc Thompson. Mercury. This is the Morning Blaze with Doc Thompson.
Folks, one of the reasons I am so critical of the TSA, well, it's multiple reasons. I mean, you can look at any of the stuff we talk about, and you can say, well, I have a problem with it because of this. And a lot of times it's generally focused in one area. For example, you are ideologically opposed to whatever it is we're talking about, like immigration reform, for example. And you say, wow, these people came into the country illegally. They shouldn't be here. You shouldn't reward them. That's ideological. Then you get to the other level and you say, practically speaking, we can't afford to continue down the road. They're taking services. So there's different angles. When it comes to the TSA, ideologically speaking, these Viper teams randomly going around to music festivals and whatever under the claims that they don't even have to have probable cause because, well, they're trying to prevent terrorism. Ideologically, I am outraged by this. Practically speaking, down the road, that personal freedom, that privacy could become an issue. But ideologically right now, that is wrong. But then there's also the other practical matter of the fact that they are incompetent. My producer, Skip Lacombe, has done extensive research on incompetence and also the TSA.
Yes.
Do you think I misspoke when I called them incompetent?
No, I think if anything, you're being too kind to them. The people who are running and who work for the TSA are some of the dopiest people I've ever had to deal with, and they all have a sense of an air of superiority over people.
Well, yeah, because they know with a little work they could become part of the Viper team.
Well, because they've got one of those really cool 10 badges
sewn on.
Yeah, and they've got the other nice little ones that are sewn on their arms, too.
And hey,
nice blue.
They get to yell at people if they haven't put their tubs away.
Let's not forget, too, they have those really cool blue gloves.
Oh, that's right.
Those aren't latex either. They're like the nice neoprene style. They're
and you can't get those just anywhere.
No.
Not to mention the fact that, as we've reported over and over, the TSA will not be transparent, and they will not give you their failure or success rates at airports. They will not provide that. I understand as part of security, you may not want to say, okay, pick an airport, Atlanta, whatever, is, 50% failure rate, but other ones are only 20%. So
we have some problems there.
Right, because what would happen is the terrorists would just go to the ones with the less success rate. I get that. But they could tell us in general.
Yeah, there's no reason they can't say on a national basis how many times, based on their testing.
Right, we fail 10% of the time, or 20, or whatever it is. They could tell us that.
The only reason they won't tell you that is because that number is astronomically high.
Exactly. That is the key, Skip. I took stuff through accidentally last time I traveled, stuff that was over 3 ounces and not in a Ziploc bag. It was toiletries. It's, bunion cream and all kinds of stuff like that. I had that all, bunion cream and other kind of ointments, salves, and balms that I use to prepare myself daily as part of my morning ritual. All in my little bag of toiletries that I just threw in there and carried it on, and nobody said a thing. They didn't even notice it.
Not once, but twice.
Well, I had to get the stuff back then, and I wasn't checking the bag for $25. I figured they fail one time, they're going to fail another, you goofballs. And they did. 2 times. I've had people that have taken hunting knives, buddies, accidentally, leaving it in their bag from a weekend of hunting. They get on a plane, forget it's in there. A large hunting knife. This is over and over. ABC News reported that the failure rate at some of the airports that they tested was over 90%. Not the success rate, the failure rate. They failed to detect over 90% of the time when people were bringing contraband through. So ideologically speaking, they are wrong. They are infringing on our personal freedoms, certainly our right to privacy. They're not directed to use probable cause, and their failure rate is astronomical. Remember, the Department of Homeland Security has determined that if you are within 100 miles of the, was it 100 miles?
Yeah, 100 miles.
100 miles of any U.S. border, probable cause goes right out the window. They don't need that. They can just search you. We've also determined that something like 70% of the American people, and 15 states or something like that, are all within 100 miles of the U.S. border. The entire state of Michigan is. So if you're any of those places, if you're within 100 miles of any U.S. border, and most of you probably are this morning, probable cause is not needed by the TSA or the entire Department of Homeland Security. We got information last week that TSAs, their misconduct by TSA employees is up 26% in the last 3 years. 26%? The misconduct. 26%. In most businesses, if you have one employee that is, being charged or claimed or targeted because of misconduct, that is huge. 26% across the board. We're talking people who have been, in the past, caught stealing electronics, cash out of people's bags behind the scenes, out of the tubs that you put through the little security devices. We're talking people who have been rude, obnoxious, got in shoving matches with people. I mean, this is what we're talking about. Sexual deviance. And I'm not talking about the ones that just grope you officially when you go through. This is TSA, yet they have expanded their Viper teams now to music festivals, rodeos, other gatherings. They now have 56,000 people working for them. 56,000. Of course, they were started in 2011. Thanks, or 9/11 rather, right after 9/11. Thanks, George Bush. Appreciate that. Thanks, buddy. They've now grown to 56,000 people. If Skip and I has pointed out in the past, TSA is not needed at airports. The screening, there are a handful of airports that are exempt. All airports can be exempt as long as they are willing to follow protocol set up by the Department of Homeland Security when it comes to screening certain ways. You can hire your own force that the government will also pick up the tab for. It's the same way. And yet in places like San Francisco that has a non-TSA screening process or people, the success rate of catching things that go through is astronomically higher. They screen many more people. It's like double the amount of people that TSA does, so they're more efficient. And it's cheaper across the board. The Viper teams were started in 2005. That was in a reaction to the Madrid train bombing. Remember that in 2004, 191 people killed, something like that? The Viper program alone now has a $100 million annual budget, and it's growing rapidly. It has several hundred people, 37 teams as of last year. In 2008, it had 10 teams. Now it has 37, and it's hundreds of people with a budget of $100 million. Now, the TSA records that we've been able to find show that the teams ran more than 8,800 unannounced checkpoint search operations, and that was last year, including those at the Indianapolis 500. Well, I mean, it's transportation. They're driving in a circle. Are they driving, Skip?
Yes.
There you go. You got to check them.
But still, I wouldn't even call it really transportation. They end in the same place they start.
Well, they are transporting from point A to point A. But via point B, C, D, and whatever. And they go around that circle.
And technically, they are traveling in the circle for 500 miles.
That
or
is
500
true.
laps or whatever.
Ironically, they're not checking the drivers. They're checking everybody else that comes to watch the people transported. But, I mean, they got you there. The Democrat and Republican national political conventions, they did unannounced sweeps there, too. They also did, in 2011, a sweep at the Savannah, Georgia Amtrak station randomly when people got off, just that one, and searched people's bags. 2012.
Wait, when they got off at the Savannah, Georgia station?
Yeah.
Wouldn't it make a whole lot more sense for them to have done a sweep before they got on the train?
What are you getting at there, Skip?
Well, because if anybody had any nefarious plans or a chance to blow up the plane, they probably or the train, they probably would have done that while they were on the train.
Well, maybe they were leaving a bag behind when they got off the train there.
That they still wouldn't have found it then if they were.
Maybe they're concerned about domestic violence, taking that bomb home, something like that. Maybe they're concerned with people getting off the train there and getting into a car that they left at the little station. And isn't that transportation? You don't want someone blowing up their car.
That's a good point.
2012 in Houston, TSA officers were randomly stopping bus riders and searching their bags. Randomly, just in Houston one day. August 2012, there was a report by the Inspector General of the Department of Homeland Security that specifically questioned the need, effectiveness, and training of TSA and Viper teams. They told some TSA officials told auditors that they had concerns that deploying Viper teams to train stations or other events was not always based on credible intelligence. These are TSA managers that told the agents that deploying these different officers, these teams, these Viper teams to some of these events were not based on credible information or intelligence. Which means what? They were just doing it randomly, or they were buying into any bit of hype? Which was it? The auditors said that the Viper teams do not have, folks, let me pause here a moment and stress this. Let me highlight this. Give you a moment to make sure that you got the radio up loud enough. In 2012, last August, the Inspector General said of the Viper teams, they, quote, do not have the skills and information to perform successfully in the mass transit environment. Yet they continue to expand. The Viper teams do not have the skills and information to perform successfully in the mass transit environment.
That sounds like the type of a comment you read on somebody's blog who's generally critical of the TSA. That's in an official report.
It is, but the good news is John Pistol said the agency is now retraining the Viper teams.
Oh, good, because they said their previous training wasn't very well, so they're going to go ahead and train them again.
Yeah, they're going to retrain them. The same people who failed the training the first time. Maybe they'll give them the whopping 30 hours of online training like the new navigators get for Obamacare. Maybe they'll get that. John Pistol said they're going to retrain them, and they're now working to increase the public's knowledge about the Viper teams.
Oh, they don't want to do that.
No. In fact, anytime we ask for knowledge about the teams, they stonewall us. We've asked for knowledge about how successful they are, and we don't get any of that information. Interesting that they're not really working to give us that information. Folks, they are simply protecting themselves. That's all they're doing, protecting their agencies. These are minions that have been set up specifically for the case of giving you and I the business and controlling the masses. There can be no other reason when you see how ridiculous this is. That recent finding where it says 26% misconduct rate up over the last 3 years involves TSA employees, everything from being late to skipping crucial security protocols. That rose to 3,500 incidents. About a third of the cases involve being late, not reporting to work. Mind you, these people get a huge amount of time off. It was something like 3 or 4 weeks vacation as soon as you start at the TSA on top of all of the government holidays. And yet they can't show up to work. 10% involve inappropriate comments or abuse behavior. 10%.
That's 1 out of every 10 agents.
About a quarter involves screening and security failures. I mean, a quarter, 25% involves screening and security failures, including sleeping on the job, neglect of duty that results in loss or careless inspections. The report details a case of a TSA agent suspended for 7 days after trying to carry a relative's bag past security without the screening. They were kind of going around screening there. This is your TSA agency that is now branching out, keeping you safe at Amtrak, music festivals. Where will they surface next?
Did it by chance provide any additional information on that agent that was trying to bypass security with their relative's bag?
Yeah, I skimmed the story. I'm going from memory here.
I would love to read more about that story. I mean, was this agent trying to help their relative get drugs passed? Trying to get
it didn't specifically say. I mean, it might. The information may be out there, but it didn't say in the story I saw initially. It did say a supervisor stopped it, and the bag was found to contain, quote, numerous prohibited items.
See, it was probably something like drugs and something like. And see, that agent was given a 7-day suspension. How is that agent not in prison? How is he not charged?
Well, he didn't know they were carrying
A
something.
7-day suspension. You try to bring prohibited items through TSA.
Well, in another case, there was a TSA agent suspended for 30 days after a closed-circuit camera caught him or her failing to individually examine X-ray images of passengers. You know, you have to. They just weren't doing it. Yeah, go ahead. They go up to the machine. Yeah, go ahead. It was like that. But they got a 30-day suspension for just failing to do their job. But the guy who actually helped smuggle stuff only got a 7-day suspension.
That's incredible.
They found 10,000 ethics violations, integrity violations, appearance and hygiene complaints of almost 200, 56 cases of theft. All of this information, yet they continue to try to make you and I secure. I think what we've learned here, folks, before I get a break in, I think I can sum up all of this by saying that apparently now Amtrak, Greyhound, music festivals, rodeos, conventions in the future, all of these places now will also have a 7% success rate catching contraband. Now that TSA is involved, we can expect that 7% success rate at all of those places as well. It's the Morning Blaze with Doc Thompson.
The Morning Blaze
with Doc Thompson. Mercury.
Doc Thompson. Hey, folks, don't forget to tweet at Doc Thompson Show and at Skip McComb. Coming up at 9 a.m. this morning, 8 a.m. this morning, Nancy Mace is going to join us. Now, we have her scheduled. She is, of course, challenging Lindsey Graham for that Senate seat in South Carolina. Glenn had her on yesterday, and some people thought he may be a little bit too hard on her or whatnot. I thought it was a pretty compelling interview. The interview is up at the Blaze. You can go and listen to it. But what do you want us to ask Nancy Mace? Now that you heard Glenn's interview, what do you want us to ask her? Tweet at Doc Thompson Show or at Skip Lacombe and use the hashtag AskNancyMace, M-A-C-E. You'll see I put it out there last night. You can follow it. Ask Nancy, Nancy-M-A-C-E. And just put the question down there. And Skip and I will go ahead and go ask her the ones that we think are the best. We'll add it to the list. We already have some that people have sent in, but go ahead and use the hashtag AskNancyMace, and we'll ask her. I'm sure there's a lot of things that you're curious about, maybe specific things about South Carolina or Lindsey Graham, how she's going to target it, or even Beck's interview. I mean, what did she think about Beck's interview?
Yeah, Glenn apparently thought she was relying a little bit too much on talking points. It didn't really seem to be the compelling speaker that is going to be needed, likely to take down Lindsey Graham.
Right, and I understand what he's saying there. I mean, she said the right things, but it was a lot of standard type things, and you're trying to boil this down. I mean, this is really an important race. So send us those tweets. Ask Nancy Mace if you have a specific question. Of course, use hashtag #WhatILearnedToday if you want to tell us what you learned for the end of the program. The city of Oakland, California, is considering a ban on hammers. They're going to try to ban hammers because they think,
they're banning hammers. How is that going to?
Well, do you remember the riots in Oakland after the George Zimmerman verdict?
Yeah.
Do you remember there was a waiter that was hit in the head with the hammer?
I do.
I don't know if he ended up dying. He was in serious condition last I heard. Well, because of that, they need to target hammers and ban them. I mean, if hammers were banned, then this hammer wouldn't have been around to hurt this waiter. He'd be fine right now.
Well, at least they're finally going after the weapons that actually do more damage than guns. Blunt objects kill more people than guns. So
that's true. Although hammer's just one of those blunt objects. But yeah, exactly.
Finally, Oakland is doing.
But they're also including with the hammer ban slingshots, paint projectiles, shields, any potentially destructive item at any protest. They have an ordinance that they're considering that's prohibiting so-called tools of violence and vandalism. It would prohibit tools of violence and vandalism.
They have another name for a hammer.
What's that?
A tool. Period.
That's a good point.
A tool of violence. No, it's just a tool, for doing work and whatnot.
Yeah, couldn't anything be used as a tool of violence, even if it wasn't his intended purpose? Councilman Noel Gallo sent a letter to his colleagues in council and said the law is designed to counter violence. It's going to counter violence. He said the damage to businesses in downtown Oakland and the adjacent Chinatown district included broken windows, graffiti, and arson. He said the ordinance is needed because, quote, the Oakland Police Department needs additional tools to help protect life and property in our city. He said this behavior is unacceptable. It needs to stop. He said there have been demonstrations all over the country in response to the George Zimmerman verdict case, yet no other city has experienced the level of violence and destruction that we have here in Oakland. He said, I want to give our police department the tools it needs to stop violence before it happens instead of waiting till afterwards when it's too late. He says we have to be proactive. Is this like Minority Report? See, the point is having a hammer is not and should not be a crime.
Nor is a gun.
Nor a gun. It's only a crime, or should be considered a crime, when somebody does something illegal with it. Folks, I have a pencil in my hand right now. I don't think that's on his list. So if I walk down the street in Oakland, are they going to go, whoa, there's a protest going on and you have a pencil? Let's go ahead and lock you up for that. Well, no, but I could kill you with this pencil. Anything I have on, I could take off my shirt and strangle you with it. What about my fists? I could pummel you with it. Couldn't that be considered a tool of violence or vandalism?
Yeah, you could end up going to one protest in Oakland with a pen, stab some dude in the neck, and then they're going to do the same thing with pens and pencils at protests? No, it's ridiculous.
He said he believes that the police will be able to recognize who's about to do something different than peacefully protest. How scary and creepy is that? Now, as wrong as he is, the ACLU is wrong on this as well. They chimed in and said, I appreciate the city council wants to make demonstrations safe, but they should look at both sides of the equation and realize that there are more protesters who are injured by police during protest than there are officers injured by protesters. So the ACLU is getting it wrong, saying that, well, these people have these metal shields and stuff. It's fine. He said that the city should use this time to basically reconsider the police violence against protesters. No, the police should listen. If they're arresting somebody who's protesting and the guy's got something they're using as a weapon, smack him around a little bit. I don't have a problem with that.
It looks like happening very soon. They're going to be banning cars on the Venice Beach Boardwalk, too. Anywhere in Venice.
Too soon, man. Too soon.
We got to save, man. Protect one life, dude.
All right, more of your thoughts coming up. 888-900-3393 or tweet at Doc Thompson Show. Remember, use the hashtag AskNancyMace. Tell us what you want us to ask her.
Got issues? Talk to the doc. 888-900-3393. The Morning Blaze with Doc Thompson.
On the Blaze Radio Network.
Mercury. You're streaming the Blaze Radio Network. And if you didn't know already, you can take us with you anywhere you go. Just download the free iPad and iPhone app at theblaze.com/radio. Warning. The following program has been cited for its copious inclusion of the word freedom, and therefore has been deemed a concern. Listening may subject you to additional scrutiny by the IRS, TSA, DOJ, DHS, CIA, NSA, DNC, FCC, USPS, FBI.
This is the sound of common sense defending freedom. The Morning Blaze with Doc Thompson.
888-900-3393 or tweet at Doc Thompson Show. We've got a couple of calls coming up. I'll get to them in just a second, but I want to share a couple of tweets first.
Yeah, Jonathan just chimed in with the hashtag What I Learned Today. Based on who they usually profile, TSA agents will start showing up at senior centers. It's all part of transportation with those little wheeled rascal motorized scooters, you know? By the way, too, what was that you tweeted?
Oh, yeah, I just retweeted. I tweeted this yesterday afternoon, and I just retweeted it because we're talking about security, and it's hilarious. My wife over the weekend, I think it was Saturday, was at a mall in Columbus, Ohio, and tweeted out the mall cop picture. She did tweet it. She sent it to me, and I'm the big enough jerk. She was like, I don't want to cause any problems. You know, she doesn't want to offend anybody. I, on the other hand, am fine with offending people. Is that a little smart car?
It looks like
it is one of the. It's a little clown car that they're in, folks. It is hilarious. As if the Segways were not emasculating enough to the mall cops, they have them in little smart cars. Now, I'm sure it's cheaper and stuff for them. You know, you want to save money, but it is hilarious looking. And where is it parked in front of?
Victoria's Secret.
Victoria's Secret, exactly.
It could have been worse. It could have been parked in front of a Dunkin' Donuts or something.
Yeah, we don't know where they were coming from or to.
That's a good point.
I'm sure their route takes them. Their standard route is Dunkin' Donuts to Victoria's Secret.
You just do a big loop.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, all right, you wait. There might be a disturbance down in Victoria's Secret. Let's head on. We're almost there. 10 more minutes. All right. All right. Looks. What's that? Dunkin' Krispy Kreme? Is there a? I'm sure it's back and forth. But folks, go to @Doc Thompson Show and check out the picture. Oh, do you still have your video? You should resend that out too.
Oh,
your Instagram video.
Oh, yeah. I'll
within
find
the hour, folks, from Memphis Airport. The security at the airport on the Segway.
That was the trip that I nearly got arrested 3 times at airports.
James in Alabama, you're on the Morning Blaze.
Hey, there's something I don't think y'all have realized yet.
What's that?
You ever heard of the COBRA, the Criminal International Terrorist Organization intent to dominate the world?
Oh,
G.I. Joe?
That's right. It was G.I. Joe's arch nemesis.
Yes, their foot soldiers were vipers.
You had me going for a minute there.
You're right, James. Maybe Cobra has infiltrated the U.S. government. They're part of TSA.
They get in the movies.
That is a great point, James. It's life imitating art. Excellent
I'll
point.
get a laugh out of that.
James, that is brilliant. Thank you so much for sharing, sir. I really appreciate the call. 888-900-3393. James is a wise man. Our government has been infiltrated. We know that. We just don't know by whom. Apparently, Destro and Cobra Commando have infiltrated at least TSA. You're telling me John Pistol may be Cobra Commander. Interesting. Well, wait, he would probably be like Destro or something. Wouldn't Janet Napolitano have been Cobra Commander? And
see, that would be probably more
accurate there.
G.I. Joe.
Well, now we know. And knowing is half the battle. 12-year-old boy used a BB gun to rob a 10-year-old boy during a neighborhood lemonade stand. Yeah, he was running a neighborhood lemonade stand. The 12-year-old boy comes up to the 10-year-old. This is Johnstown, Pennsylvania. 12-year-old approached the stand, threatened the younger boy with what looked like a handgun. Police are still trying to determine that. The 10-year-old got into a wrestling match over the money box before the older boy was able to run off with $30.
$30?
Yeah, a couple of thoughts here. My producer, Skip Lacombe, has done extensive research on $30 and lemonade stands, as well as young boys. What are your thoughts on this? Any red flags?
First of all, how the heck is he making $30 selling lemonade? How much is he selling that lemonade for?
It's either expensive lemonade or he's got a hell of a marketing campaign, and a lot of people are coming in.
Secondarily, they're on the ground fighting, squabbing over this $30?
Well, $30 there, kid. I mean, that's some serious cashola.
That's true.
But no, you're right there. You're on the right path. He comes up with a gun, the 12-year-old. All right, I got a gun. Give me your lockbox there full of lemonade stand money. And the 10-year-old, I don't know how it played off, but there's at least a reason to believe the 10-year-old was like, screw this, I'm going to wrestle you to the ground.
Not getting my $30.
Right, in which case, I mean, that may not be smart. Maybe you don't want to tell your kids to wrestle with somebody who has a gun, but damn, this kid is brave. Now, the other kid still got away with the cash, but 10-year-old boy, he got some stuff there.
I'm impressed, yeah.
He got some chutzpah, some moxie, you know what I'm saying? I don't know what they're putting in the lemonade at Johnstown, Pennsylvania, but damn, he got it done.
That likely was some very good lemonade, too.
You think because of $30?
I'm thinking, yeah.
That's part of it was money used to make change that he had set that up. Yeah, of course, in response to this, everybody's, crack down on guns again because a 12-year-old had one to rob a lemonade stand instead of realizing he could have used anything to rob it, or anybody could have used it.
Well, and correct me if I'm wrong, but 12-year-olds aren't able to legally purchase firearms, are they?
Well, on the street they are.
So it was
they
already,
don't check on the street.
It was already illegal for him to have that, so they want to go ahead and make a law to make it illegal for him to have that.
And to rob somebody of $30 selling some lemonade. Did you see the crazy anti-gun stuff from the New Jersey American Federation of Teacher President Donna Chiarura?
Yeah.
Okay, folks, if you didn't see this, the anti-gun craze on the Today Show. This is late last week. There were some districts that were talking about arming teachers, and I'm trying to remember where I saw it. Darn it. Another district or districts came out just in the last 2 weeks and said they're going to start arming teachers as part of security at their schools, at their public schools. The Today Show has on this New Jersey American Federation of Teachers president, Donna Chiarura, and asks her about arming teachers in the classroom and what type of impact it may have. This New Jersey American Federation of Teacher president, Donna Chiarura, responded this way.
A classroom is someplace where magic happens, and it happens when there is a comfortable
Hold on a second. Hold on. Can you restart that? I mean, I want to hear the beginning of this. A classroom is what? What?
A classroom is someplace where magic happens, and it happens
Whoa. She's not talking about all the teachers that are screwing little kids, right?
That's where magic happens, baby.
Because, they don't seem to have that same concern. I mean, you've got an epidemic of teachers that are boo-fooing kids, teachers that are hooking up with them, and I'm not talking just 18-year-olds, former students, ones that are students but 19 and still in class. We're talking all the way down to little kids. You've got this going on. Is that what she's talking about? Magic happens?
I don't think so.
Because I got to believe they would be concerned about this at some point, that they would discuss it, but they never discuss it. So I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt and assume that she's bringing this up to discuss what's going on with the epidemic of teachers that are screwing kids. So start that again at the beginning and make sure I'm not misunderstanding here.
A classroom is someplace where magic happens, and it happens when there is a comfortable feeling between teachers and students.
See what I'm saying? See what I'm saying? Magic happens, a comfortable feeling between students, and I think that's where she's going with this, Gib.
I think she's actually referring to the try to get this out without. Hold on.
Yeah. Take your time.
I think she's referring to the magic of education.
Let me continue. Let's hear what she says.
For students to say, oh, my goodness, if I answer the wrong question, is my teacher going to shoot me? If I make my teacher angry, is my teacher going to shoot me?
Wait a second. Wait, she's saying that if you arm teachers in the classroom, students are going to say, oh, my goodness, if I get the wrong question, is my teacher going to shoot me? If I make my teacher angry, are they going to shoot me? Now, Carson Daly, who...
Is he on that show full time now?
No, he's been filling in all over the place. I don't know. He's got the best agent in America.
Yeah, I've
this
seen
guy,
him everywhere.
The only person that has less talent than Carson Daly is Ryan Seacrest. And these clowns continue to get jobs. They offer nothing other than talking head. But he ends up on the Today Show, which I guess is perfect for him there. He asks, do you think they'll make the connection? So back up to the beginning where she says that students will worry that a teacher is going to shoot them if they get the wrong answer.
To say, oh, my goodness, if I answer the wrong question, is my teacher going to shoot me? If I make my teacher angry, is my teacher going to shoot me? Connection? I think because of the media and everything they've been exposed to, where people on a regular
hold it right there. First, blame the media there. Blame the media on it and what they're exposed to.
They see on TV someone got mad and pulled out a gun. I also think it impacts parents. Parents many times come into classrooms to have uncomfortable conversations with teachers. And I wouldn't want parents to come in and be hesitant to say something to me with, is this the teacher who's packing the gun and what do I have to be fearful? I think it would make an environment of fear.
An environment of fear.
I don't want parents coming in wondering, is this the teacher that's packing the gun?
Because a teacher could never harm a parent without a gun. They could never harm them even in the slightest without a gun.
No, Doc, there's a litany of ways a teacher could.
No, I don't think they could. I mean,
they.
So you're telling me there's already an environment of fear.
Absolutely.
What with scissors and pencils and heavy blunt objects, there's
knives.
already an environment of fear and knives. It's Why would she say such a thing then? Gunophobe. There it is. Okay. Took me a second there. I was trying to see you could kill somebody or hurt them in any other way.
She isn't concerned about the kids being frightened or the parents being frightened of a gun. She's the one who's just terrified of guns.
I see. So
she doesn't want to have to go to union meetings at the school wondering who all's having a gun because it terrifies her.
So she's already living in an environment of fear?
Yes.
Is that what it is? I didn't realize that. That's wild.
For when she brings union cookies to the school, she wants to make sure nobody has guns.
888-900-3393 or tweet at Doc Thompson Show. Again, 888-900-3393 or tweet at Doc Thompson Show. I just got a text from somebody that said, I've had a meeting with a teacher, and they brought their union thug or rep with them. Speaking of unions, Detroit, back in the news. The unions which helped kill the city of Detroit and manufacturing in America, back in the news. Get the duct tape. I'm going to go ahead and throw this down right now. Bearded Spock. I'm going to throw that out there. Bearded Spock. Folks, and if you've never listened to the program, we got a lot of new people joining us every day. A Bearded Spock is the episode from Star Wars, Star Trek, a reference to Star Trek where there was an alternate universe, and Leonard Nimoy in that episode had the goatee. He had the beard, and that's how you knew it was the wrong universe. And he was the evil Spock. He wasn't a good guy like we know him from most universes with Spock. So I contend with these stories that I'm about to share. I feel like I'm living in some alternate parallel universe where things are not quite. There's no other explanation to it. So if I make a reference to the bearded Spock, you'll know what it is. It's just so weird, so out of control. I must be living in some other universe. I'm going to get a break in. I'm going to come back, give you a chance to prepare yourself for what I'm about to share. This is The Morning Blaze.
The Morning Blaze with Doc Thompson. Streaming stimulation that is safe for work.
Only on the Blaze Radio Network.
Mercury.
(888-900-3393).
The Morning Blaze with Doc Thompson.
All right, so the city of Detroit has had some failures recently, and by recently I mean
That's 60. That's an understatement there, Doc.
And
you just came on the segment and said, the city of Detroit's been having some issues.
Some problems there.
Breaking news on the Blaze.
A little trouble there. Some new information that may point the finger at part of the problem. The problem is, see, the city of Detroit doesn't act. Part of the reason they filed bankruptcy is that over 40% of their expenses now, for all the money they take in, goes to retirement benefits. So not only do you have union issues over the years that have helped kill Detroit from the private sector, but also the public sector, like all across America. And I don't blame all of those public sector workers. Some of them do a good job, and some of them have been denied raises and stuff, even though that maybe they should have been given it in favor of these retirements. But the fact is, bad politicians have kicked the cans down the road, and what you have here is cities all across America that cannot afford the retirement benefits because of bad policies, because of bad politicians. And we also know that there are also the unions that continue to pump up the numbers that they say that are needed. So now, Skip, with Detroit facing a 40% expense in just retirement benefits, of all the things that they have expenses for, it's been determined that Detroit doesn't actually know how many police department employees it has.
I'm sorry, they don't know how many
people work for them. The city of Detroit does not actually know how many police department employees it has, or what these employees do. Could that be part of the problem? I'm just curious. Is that possible?
So you're telling me that the key to fixing Detroit is sending in the Bobs?
Is sending in the Bobs.
So what is it that you guys do here?
We evaluate. You
evaluate, so like the union contracts and how many people work for the city?
Well, we police. We're a liaison between the public and also management.
Okay, so you actually have conversations with management.
No.
Public
The public goes right to management.
Okay, so then you.
I told you I'm a people person. Yeah, it's office space, folks. That's what's going on. They're just hoping it'll all work itself out. If they just stop giving them a paycheck, it'll all just kind of work itself out. The problem is they've still been giving a paycheck, even though they don't know who they're giving a paycheck to. And those that they do give a paycheck to, they don't know what they actually do.
Do they not have anybody in human resources? Really, legitimately, that's a serious question.
Well,
is there nobody that does that for the city of Detroit?
Well, the problem is, let me back up, they don't know how many people in the police department, so they wouldn't know who works in human resources, Skip.
That's a good point.
I'm not joking. I'm serious. Because you have human resources for the city, but you also have human resources for whatever. So if you don't know how many police department employees you have or what they're doing, you likely wouldn't know if you have anybody in human resources. Okay, let me lay this out for you. You probably think I'm making this up. I'm not. The city's 2003, this goes back all the way to 2003 and beyond. The city's 2003 comprehensive annual financial report, 10 years ago, they've had 10 years to get this right, states that there were 4,810 uniformed police officers. 4,810 uniformed police officers. However, the city's comprehensive annual financial report in 2012, 9 years later, lists the city as having 3,981 uniformed police officers. In 2003, and lists that it had it lists that it had 3,981 in 2003. The report last year. So in 2003, they said they had 4,800. Last year, they reported in 2003 they had 3,900. They didn't even go back to the report from 2003. Then, 2 pages later in the city's report, it says they have 3,965 officers. All of these reports that they do claim they have different number of officers. And it's not departmental. They mean across the board. Now, the city's emergency manager review team. Yes, the new emergency manager had a review team that wrote yet another report that stated that regarding police operations, operational dysfunction contributes to the city's serious financial problem. That's one of the things they found. Operational dysfunction contributes to the city's financial problem. The emergencies manager's report found that the city police department had about 2,030 employees in 2012. That's like 2,000 less than the other reports. City officials in the police department could not agree on just what those 2,030 employees did. See, we're trying to find out what you actually do around here, and they don't know. City officials stated that only 33% of the police department's employees were involved in patrolling the city. Are you listening to that number? When you say there's crime in Detroit, and how dare people want to cut police even more because there will be even more crime? Skip, of those employees for the police department, for the city of Detroit, only 33% actually patrol the city.
What does that leave the other percentage doing?
Management, office workers and such.
Dealing
support
with union
staff,
contracts and meeting with the unions.
Yes.
Seriously, what?
The rest, they claim, were involved in, quote, ancillary administrative functions, such as payroll. Police department officials claimed that 68% of its workforce was involved in patrol work and another 15% involved in investigations. So the different reports say that only 33% are patrolling and investigating. Meanwhile, the police department says that 68% does. There are claims that they have as many as 4,800 employees or have, and as low as 2,000 employees. The team putting together the emergency manager's report was unable to resolve the discrepancies and could not find any reliable information of what staffing levels are or are supposed to be. That's the emergency manager's report. So even the emergency manager has no idea where to head with this stuff, has no idea who is working, how many work, or what they actually do. Good luck, Detroit.
You're listening to The Morning Blaze with Doc Thompson
on the Blaze Radio Network. Mercury.
The Blaze Radio Network. Headlines.
It's been almost a year, but indictments finally filed against the thug terrorists behind the Benghazi attack on 9/11 of last year. Here's the Blaze Radio's Chris Barnes.
CNN, NBC News, and the Wall Street Journal all say unspecified counts have been filed for the attack that killed Ambassador Chris Stevens and 3 other Americans. CNN claiming the charges name Ahmed Abu Khattala, a Libyan militia leader. The Journal says charges were filed against more than one person. The Justice Department calling the investigation a top priority.
George W. Bush having a stent put in. Here's the Blaze Radio's Kay Long.
Former President George W. Bush in the hospital. Doctors finding a blockage in one of his arteries. A Bush spokesman saying doctors inserted a stent during a procedure at Texas Health Presbyterian Hospital in Dallas. The blockage discovered during Bush's annual physical. The spokesman saying the blockage was opened with no complications. 67-year-old Bush expected to be discharged Wednesday. He's said to be in good spirits and anxious to get home.
Documentaries about Hillary Clinton may ultimately be canned. Here's the Blaze Radio's Greg Moore.
There's a battle brewing between the Republican National Committee and TV networks CNN and NBC, both of whom have programs in the works about Hillary Rodham Clinton. And that's not sitting well with Reince Priebus, who threatened on Monday to boycott both networks from taking part in any 2016 Republican primary debates if the networks don't pull the plug on the programs. Priebus now finds a somewhat surprising ally in David Brock, founder of the liberal watchdog Media Matters for America, who also thinks the networks should cancel their productions. Brock says in letters to NBC and CNN, given that this project could coincide with a potential Clinton campaign, the timing raises too many questions about fairness and conflicts of interest.
And I'm Robert Walensky for TheBlaze.com. Now more with Doc Thompson in the Morning Blaze on the Blaze Radio Network.
News you need from the Blaze Radio Network.
Instead of punching a total stranger this morning, punch these numbers into your phone. 888-900-3393. The Morning Blaze with Doc Thompson.
All right, so the city of Detroit doesn't know where it's going, doesn't know what it's doing. But that's not just the city of Detroit. It's cities all over America. And Detroit has a legitimate way out that they are working on. Everyone's like, how are they going to get out of this and cut healthcare costs? Well, they want to file bankruptcy, and that will help them renegotiate the contracts with those city workers. But they still have to get out from underneath those costs. Some of them they're not going to be able to get out from underneath of with bankruptcy. First of all, the bankruptcy may not happen, may not go through. So they have another plan. This is a plan that is also being considered by cities all across America. Chicago, Sheboygan County, Wisconsin, Stockton, California, which has filed bankruptcy, tried to. These cities are all considering something that your city may consider, your county, your state. And all it will do is cost you even more money. Okay, try to follow me here a minute. Cities, states, and counties are going to try to get out from underneath healthcare costs and retirement benefits with a plan that is going to cost you more money. They know it's going to cost you more money. This is not them saying it's not going to cost you more money, it's going to save you, and won't. They know it will. These different counties, cities, and states, they know it. But all they're doing is shifting the cost to somebody else, so they, as the city, county, or state, save money. And look at this, I'm doing my job. It saved the money. But you, as the taxpayer, it's not only going to still cost you the same amount, it's going to cost you more. Let me explain what they're doing here. As Detroit heads through its bankruptcy process, they and others are looking at this plan that would shift its health insurance to Obamacare. So you as the taxpayer
have to pay for the promises that were made 30 years ago to SEIU employees.
Exactly.
That is BS.
Now, that is BS. Now, imagine this. Imagine you're living in Reno, Nevada. You're living in Reno, Nevada. And the city, I don't know for sure, but let's assume Reno has done a great job, that they are fiscally sound. The people there have had taxes, and they've been efficient, and they've paid their taxes, and they've done everything they can to manage the city wonderfully. And yet, you got a city like Detroit or Chicago that has not, and their healthcare costs are outrageous, so they shift those healthcare expenses to the federal government. That means you in Reno, or whatever city or county or state you're in that has done the right things, are going to essentially have to pick up the healthcare costs of cities who have mismanaged, who have done the wrong things. Politicians who did not do the hard work 20, 30 years ago and kick the can down the road. You are going to have to pick up the expenses. Now, to make matters worse, my producer, Skip Lacombe, has done extensive research into things like the Democrat Party, the Republican Party, rural areas versus urban areas. Skip, when it comes to conservative versus liberal or progressive, what parts of America do progressives usually live in versus conservatives, rural or urban settings? In other words, generally speaking, there are exceptions, but in the grand scheme of things, do progressives and liberals live in urban settings or rural settings?
Generally speaking, progressives will tend to congregate in the more urban centers,
yes,
urban locations.
Absolutely.
Conservatives usually will head in more rural type areas.
Smaller towns out in farms and stuff like that.
And again, that's not universally true. There's a lot of smaller towns that are very liberal, and even some bigger towns that have some more conservative roots. But generally speaking, yes.
Right. Now, I'll ask you something else. My producer, Skip Lacombe, has done extensive research on filing bankruptcy, people misspending,
yes,
and also cities all over America. Of the places that are filing bankruptcy that are not financially sound, generally speaking, are those big urban settings or small rural communities?
Generally, it's the larger urban settings that are filing for bankruptcy.
Therefore, the mistakes of the progressives, of the Democrat strongholds over the years, their failures to manage their money and handle things properly, are now going to be shifted on you in rural America onto conservatives yet again. See, this is a broad effort in Detroit to save tens of millions of dollars in healthcare costs each year as part of their restructuring package. But this is a trend. It's already been suggested in other cities. Rahm Emanuel, the mayor of Chicago, has astronomical expenses that just keep going up. So they've also suggested this. It's being watched by cities all over America that if this works, folks, you will see them start going like dominoes, like that, one after the other, because it allows those politicians in those local counties or cities, and you could even see it at the state level as well, to just do away with those expenses, to just shift huge portions of it to the federal government.
And for their local races, local election, that's going to make them look like rock stars because it's going to be spun to them like, look, we
balanced the budget.
We eliminated this debt. It's not we shifted it over to the rest of the country. We eliminated this debt.
And I didn't ask you for more money. We just came in and fixed it. No, they did. They're shifting it onto you in other ways. Proposals like this are shifting public sector retirees into the new insurance markets called, exchanges under Obamacare. They're already being planned and considered for specifically that we know of out in the open. Chicago, Sheboygan County, Wisconsin, Stockton, California. And by the way, Sheboygan County, also fairly progressive as well. You got large employers that are eliminating health benefits of full-time workers that can be penalized under health care laws, but retirees are a different matter. If you, as a small business or even a big business, do not provide health insurance, you could get penalized. But these cities and counties can't. So see, if you're a business and you say, I'm just going to go ahead and let Obamacare take care of these people and I can save the money, they put that law in there. They made that part of the law that says you will be penalized. Now, we know as a part of Obamacare that it's still in many of these companies' best interest because they'll still save money. Taking the penalty will still save them money. But this is different when it comes to locality. Unfunded retiree health care costs are bigger than ever for localities across the country. So the healthcare law guarantees federal subsidies to help people with with modest incomes afford coverage, and it's made the new insurance markets really attractive to the different local governments. So they had a study issued this year by the Pew Charitable Trusts, and it found that 61% of the nation's major cities are wrestling with $126 billion in retiree costs. All but 6% are unfunded. Let me tell you that again. That of the nation's major cities, all of them progressive strongholds, are wrestling with a total debt of retiree costs of $126 billion cumulatively. And all but 6% is unfunded. That they only have enough money cumulatively for 6% of these. The Affordable Care Act, according to Neil Bomberg, he's a program director at the National League of Cities, he said does change the possibility here dramatically. He says it offers a very high-quality, potentially very affordable way to get people into health care without the burden falling back onto the city or town.
It falls back onto everybody.
Exactly.
That's the problem. It's not an individual. What happened to individual personal responsibilities, too? That goes to these types of plans, too, in providing health insurance for your employees.
But see, he's with the National League of Cities, though. So, see, from a city's perspective, Skip, it's great. It doesn't fall back onto those cities.
Even from a city's perspective, that city should have the responsibility to take care of the promises that they have made. Like the city of Detroit, that for years and years and years have been promising employees these golden parachute plans when they retired to, and huge health care benefits and amazing pensions. That's your responsibility, Detroit. That's your responsibility, Sheboygan County. That's your responsibility, Stockton, California, not mine.
Not to mention the fact that here's how short-sighted this guy in these cities are. Unless we are willing to take on even more debt, the expense of this will be shifted back onto the cities. Directly onto the cities as well. We know indirectly because it's shifted back onto all the people, right? I mean, we're all going to pay more. That means people in those cities are going to have less money to pay to those cities, right? You're going to have less tax money available. So if you say, great, city, I'm not going to pay any more taxes to you, that's great. But I'm going to have less money because of this, because it's going to be through these exchanges up through the federal government. But, Skip, if the federal government now has to pick up this tab, that means we are going to, as a nation, go into greater debt, or the people are going to have to be taxed more. Unless we go into greater debt or the people are taxed more, that means the federal government will have less money to give back to the cities. You know, the federal government hands out all kinds of grants and monies to cities for all kinds of things, which it shouldn't be that way, but it is. That means these cities directly could have less money coming to them because the federal government will have less money because it's picking up the expenses for their retirees' health care. It's incredible. But these cities, much like this guy from the National League of Cities, are acting like the American people in general. What about me? You've got people that are libertarian or conservative that work for unions who would never dream of taking part in anything progressive, but when it comes to the unions, then, well, it's okay because it's them. We've got too many people saying, what about me, instead of enough people focusing on the big picture here. Sarah Hamilton is a spokeswoman for Rahm Emanuel in Chicago. She said, with the implementation of the Affordable Care Act, our retirees will have more options to meet their health care needs. In the city of Chicago, they'll have more options. Doesn't that sound nice, Skip? Well, do you want them to have less options?
The more options is somebody else will pay for it.
Yes, but you have the option of who those people will be and which plan those people will pay for. It's going to give you options. Skip, I can't believe you would not want these people to have options. She said, and again, this is a spokeswoman for the city of Chicago, the mayor of the city of Chicago. She said, we will ensure that they have all the information needed to navigate the options going forward while saving vital taxpayer dollars.
You're not saving the taxpayer dollars. You're just moving it around.
Actually, maybe a little bit of Chicago because it ends up that net gain or net loss, right? You've got states in America that send money to, well, all states send money to the federal government via the cities and taxes and everything else and the citizens. That when it's said and done, if you look at a city, they are either a net gain or net loser when it comes to taxes. So you have some states that say, out of every dollar that our people send to the federal government, in total we get 30 cents back or 40 cents back or whatever. You get some states, like Skip, your home state of New Mexico, is one that gets like $4 or $6 per every dollar they send. And it just comes down to the size of the state, to the population, the tax base, the expenses, and so on and so forth. All this does, potentially with the city of Chicago, is save some vital taxpayer dollars to Chicagoans and instead have people in Walla Walla, Washington paying for it. So she's not completely inaccurate. It does save vital taxpayer dollars of Chicagoans at the expense of people in Reno or Fort Myer. Under the health care law, starting October 1st, every state is going to have to outline insurance markets where people can shop for the private plans. Well, these policies have to include 10 broad categories of benefits, including emergency services, hospitalization, prescription drugs. People earning up to 400% of poverty can get federal subsidies to help with the cost of premiums, but only for policies bought through the new markets. Therefore, the premiums are going to vary depending on how much coverage the plan offers. This year, 400% of the poverty level is $45,000 for an individual. You'll be eligible for this up to $45,000. $62,000 for two people in a household. Cities can also provide moderate monthly stipends to help retirees with the cost of health insurance bought through the exchange.
Moderate monthly stipends?
Sure. Detroit, for instance, has proposed doing that. So what they'll do is likely say, take Obamacare, and then we'll give you a little something on top of it, saving huge costs. Retirees say that they worry the costs are actually going to amount to the same type of coverage or not that they had with their city plans. And they're right to be concerned. A lot of them had tremendous plans. And you should. As much as I think that maybe those employees shouldn't have gotten those plans to begin with, you know, and every case is different in every city across America, the bottom line is you were promised that, wrong or right. We should, as citizens, keep our promise, but learn from our lesson and do things differently.
Let me help you out to those folks that are concerned about them losing some benefits.
That are a little bit worried about it?
You're going to lose some benefits.
Oh, that's
and by some benefits, you're going to lose a lot of your benefits.
Now, there's an added little wrinkle for Detroit. Michigan is among the states that so far have opted out of expanding Medicaid under the health care. So in states like Michigan who've opted out to expanding Medicaid, people with incomes below the poverty level, $11,490, so $11,500 for an individual or $15,500 for a couple, they would not be eligible for the federal subsidies to help buy coverage through the exchange. So because Michigan has opted out of the expansion of Medicaid, these people would not be eligible. So the people who wrote the law had intended these people to be eligible for Medicaid if they didn't already have it. But the Supreme Court ruled last year that the expansion was an option for states, not a requirement. This potentially leaves a group of retirees who will be ineligible for Medicaid or a subsidy, effectively just losing their benefits. You know what this is, folks? This is pure Detroit.
Pure Detroit.
You know, you've probably seen the Pure Michigan commercials.
Yeah, the ones with Tim Allen voicing them.
Right, exactly. Michigan is spectacular. Michigan has some amazing things. It's surrounded by 4 of the 5 Great Lakes, good people, farmland, huge industry. I mean, Michigan is a powerfully good state.
The big problem with Michigan?
What's that?
At Detroit.
Yeah, so I'm thinking what they need to do in these commercials where they show how great Michigan is, and you've seen a lot of advertising. I think Jeff Daniels is from Michigan and does the, you know, what can the hand do for you or whatever as part of the Pure Michigan campaign, settle your business.
I've seen that one.
Yeah, so as part of the Pure Michigan campaign, they may have to start a separate Pure Detroit campaign or a Pure Michigan without Detroit campaign. Or just show Michigan with Detroit sawed off there.
Is there any way we could just give Detroit to Windsor?
Windsor won't take it. They won't. Yeah, no one else. Ohio won't take it up there in the corner. Ohio's got too many problems by itself. Yeah. You would just have to say, you're on your own, folks. We know the Upper Peninsula has tried to secede from Michigan, and I don't blame them because those are good people up there that are being sucked down the hole by Detroit down there in the bottom of the hand. I would say they would have to just draw a line and go, you're on your own. Maybe it's an escape from New York type thing. Maybe you get Snake Plissken to come in. You just go ahead and section it all off. And we can do this with Chicago and some other cities, too. Yeah. We section it all off. And we say, we're just going to drive. You're stuck in there. Sorry. You've had 40 years to get the hell out. If you're not smart enough to by now, no, I don't think so. So, Skip, what would a pure Detroit commercial look like if you're advertising for Detroit? You show 40% of streetlights burned out. Pure Detroit. Right? We don't know how many police officers we have. A response time of an hour. We don't know what the officers do. Pure Detroit.
Where $4 is as good as a crack rock.
Pure Detroit. We've had mayors who've potentially killed hookers or strippers, stolen millions of dollars, and are serving federal time. Pure Detroit. I think we got something there. See, what you're doing there is you're advertising kind of a rough and tumble place like the Wild West then. You're taking your matters in your own hand. It's pure Detroit.
See, then, too, you can take one of the nice positive aspects like brisket enchiladas, pure Michigan.
Exactly. You take I'm just warning Slows and others. You got to get out now before Snake Bliskin comes.
But seriously, Slows could move 5 miles west.
Slows is, by the way, folks, a great little barbecue joint in Detroit proper.
Oh, man.
But so in any city like that, Chicago, Detroit, Cleveland, Stockton, anywhere where you have good stuff, you just give people some time to get out. Go ahead and it's time to get the hell out of there. Although, if they set up the high fences and they said you could only get that certain item by going in like Snake Bliskin, yeah, see, I wouldn't go in to rescue the president or any president for that matter. But to rescue some brisket enchiladas, to rescue a really good pizza, all right, Doc, Snake Thompson, here you go. Here's the plan. We need you to go in and rescue the president. Yeah, I don't think so. No, you don't understand. He's a really good conservative president. He's done, risking my life for a politician. I don't think so. All right, this isn't working. Doc, we need you to go in and rescue a pizza. Where do I sign up? Where do I go? Get out of the way. Give me the glider. It's the Morning Blaze with Snake Thompson.
The Morning Blaze with Doc Thompson on the Blaze Radio Network. Mercury.
Doc Thompson.
The Morning Blaze with Doc Thompson. 888-900-3393.
We're going to have that changed, right? Doc, the snake, changed now.
I'm sorry. I can't give you the snake.
Hey, folks, by the way, tweet at Doc Thompson Show and at Skip Lacombe. And as you're tweeting, use the hashtag #AskNancyMace. M-A-C-E, Nancy Mace. Skip set up an interview. Glenn had her on yesterday. Some people were a little bit critical of Glenn, saying maybe he was too hard on her. You can see his interview at The Blaze. You can watch the entire thing from yesterday's program. But if you have a question you would like to have asked, and it could even be something like, hey, was Glenn too hard on you? You could re-ask a Glenn question, whatever it is. We will share your questions. We'll use them. We're opening this up to you. So use the hashtag #AskNancyMace. NACYMACE. Just tweet that out at us. We've already collected some, and we'll share those coming up. Also, use that hashtag What I Learned Today. Welcome to the program. If you are new to the Blaze Radio Network, thank you so much for your support. If you try us for a week or two, I think you'll understand what we're all about. We're about the truth. We're about getting the information out there. We are your voice of reason and consistency in a world of evil. And we're also a bunch of smartasses here in the morning. Because we recognize that this is serious, but if we don't blow off some steam now and then, we're not going to be able to get through.
Yeah, if we're not able to laugh at this and make fun of this stuff in the way that we do,
this stuff is laughable.
Would drive me crazy.
Right, think how laughable this is. It's ridiculous. These people are numbskulls. Okay, think we're just doing pure Detroit, right? Have you seen the California commercials for their tourism?
Oh,
what is it? Get out here?
Find yourself here.
Find yourself here. That's what it is. They just say get out here. These are the commercials where they're like, they say all Californians just lay on the beach.
They say we're all surfers.
They say we're all just about Hollywood. And they do all that stuff. And it's all celebrities doing it. Schwarzenegger, Betty White's on it, and so on.
Jason Mraz.
Right, which is fine. California, folks, is a spectacular state, minus those nuts in San Francisco and L.A. and whatever. So I'm just wondering if you could take our theory with pure Detroit and, like you could do that with Stockton or L.A. or San Francisco, right? They could just say, we're all murderous thugs. Find yourself here in Oakland.
We're all naked, fat, gay people. Find yourself in San Francisco.
I mean, they could do it for all over the place.
That's a really good point.
Okay, how about for Northern Virginia, right? What is Virginia's slogan for years? Virginia is for lovers.
Okay.
Right? So you could do Virginia, well, you'd have to do it, you'd tailor it for like Northern Virginia. So you'd say, Northern Virginia is for lovers of crime and high taxes. Right?
You could do one for New Mexico, too. You know, it's
the land of enchantment? Is that where you're going?
Change that from the land of enchantment to still cleaner than old Mexico.
These are all serious possibilities, folks. All right, get those last-minute questions in for Nancy Mace. She's coming up next. Tweet them at us at Doc Thompson Show and use the hashtag Ask Nancy Mace. We'll do those next. And then Mike Opalka from the Blaze Newsroom joins us at 8:30 right here on the Morning Blaze.
The Morning Blaze with Doc Thompson. Only on the Blaze Radio Network. Mercury.
This is
the Blaze Radio Network.
Need more stimulation? Check out theblaze.com/TV.
And start your 2-week free trial now. Warning, the following program has been cited for its copious inclusion of the word freedom, and therefore has been deemed a concern. Listening may subject you to additional scrutiny by the IRS, TSA, DOJ, DHS, CIA, NSA, DNC, FCC, USPS, FBI.
This is the sound of common sense defending freedom. The Morning Blaze with Doc Thompson.
All right, we're going to get some of your calls coming up, 888-900-3393. Also, some of your tweets. And if you have a question for Nancy Mace, by all means, send that out. Use the Twitter, the hashtag Ask Nancy Mace. Nancy joins us now. How are you?
Good morning. How are you this morning?
I'm doing well. Happy to have you on the Blaze Radio Network. We heard you were on with our boss, Glenn Beck, yesterday, and some people suggested that he was a little hard on you there, that it was a tricky interview, so we figured we'd give you a little bit more time here to get to know you a little bit. Nancy is running for the Republican nomination for the Senate seat in South Carolina.
Well, I guess first of all, just thanks for having me on this morning. No one said this is going to be easy. And it sort of feels like Hell Week at the Citadel on some days.
I understand that. That can make
and that's okay. But like, one of the things that Glenn said yesterday was he was worried about, me walking into this lion's den and having to go through that challenge and having my family have to go through that challenge. And when I woke up this morning, I sort of felt like I had opened the door, I'd stepped inside, peered around the corner, and there he was sitting right there. This is going to be brutal. And I feel like, I'm going to be savage and my family's going to have to go through this. And, a lot of, some of this started yesterday with my opponents that are in this race. And to me, that makes it, I'm more motivated by some of the attacks and smearing that's going on right now to do this than I was before. But it's not going to be easy, like Glenn said yesterday. I mean, it's going to be brutal.
Well, unlike my producer, Skip, who thought Glenn was an outright jerk to you. I mean, Skip has been going, Glenn is such a jerk or whatever.
I wouldn't go that far. That might be a bridge too far away.
But you understand. I mean, I listened to the interview, and I get what Glenn was trying to say.
Yeah.
This is something newer to you. I mean, you've been incredibly successful, and we'll go down your resume in a couple of minutes here. But Glenn is right in the sense that this is a world that we have a little better understanding because we're in the public eye and have been for a while. Right. That you are attacked in places you can't even imagine. And, of course, the people listening right now, they want to make sure that it's not just the sound bites, that you're somebody who is firmly entrenched in the things that you say you believe.
Yeah, no, and absolutely, and I get that. And what I'm trying to do, I'm 4.5 days into a campaign to the United States Senate. I've never run for office, and I'm not a politician. And I don't want to, I'm not going to change who I am. And one of the things that I learned when I was at the Citadel was very personal. When I jumped into an experience where I was challenged physically and mentally beyond any comprehension I could ever imagine as a young 18-year-old, and left ostracized and alone. And when you find yourself in those really cold, dark places, you find out what you're made of. And what I learned in that experience was that, I believed in honor and trust, and I didn't change who I was through that experience. I stood tall and firmly for what I believed in. And what I learned when I was there is that, to go through that experience, to fight an establishment or a good old boy network on your own, it's not easy. But what I found when I was there is that some folks that were going through that experience, they changed who they are and they changed their values to fit in. But when something would happen or when something would go wrong, the good old boys that were with them at one point, left them. But what I did and what I learned through that experience was I didn't change who I was. And I stood firm and I fought for what I believed in. And what I've heard from people over the last couple of weeks and months is they send folks to Washington, and when they're on the campaign trail, they say one thing, but when they get to D.C., they act a totally different way.
Yeah, you become corrupt.
That's not,
yeah.
You become corrupt, and you don't stand for what you believe in, and you succumb to the establishment that's up there, and I get that they're coming after you every single day, but I've been there. I've gotten the T-shirt.
But the difference is, Nancy, and I think, and you're absolutely right about sticking to. It's not just about hard times. I mean, that's something. I mean, you're right. Citadel. I can't even imagine what you went through. But it's about
I don't want to define who I am either. But that's just an example.
Okay. No, and I understand what you're saying. But it's about that being tempted. And I think that's the reason, although I don't want to speak for him, that's the impression I got when Glenn was asking you stuff about your soul. It's that temptation factor. It's hard work. It's determination to stand tall in the face of difficult situations. But then it's also that temptation factor that you could be sucked into some really odd things. They're going to give you difficult choices. They're going to put you in situations where they say, you can stand for this and that, this or that, and both of them are things that you kind of believe in. They're going to give you false choices.
Mm-hmm. No, I absolutely agree. They're going to do what they can to bring you down to conform to a system that's broken, and that's part of why I'm in this race. I mean, a lot of people are going to want me to see my last name, and they want me to be a bludgeoning tool against Senator Graham, but I see this as being bigger than that. I mean, there is a systematic failure in D.C. and in Washington. They have failed us. They have failed this country, and if we don't change it, then a day of reckoning is coming.
So tell me about you. We know you're the first female graduate of the Citadel. First of all, tell us what that was like. Give us a brief overview of what that's like to go through the Citadel.
Well, it's sort of it's intense and it's trying, and I loved it and hated it all at the same time. But it really tested my mettle. It tested who I was and what I believed in, and I learned the good and the bad and the ugly in that experience. That's probably the beauty of that experience. And you see good leadership and you see bad. And obviously the goal is to emulate, the good qualities that you see out there in leaders like, when I look at Senator Rand Paul and Ted Cruz and Mike Lee and those folks. But it gave me an opportunity, to find myself. And, before I went to the Citadel, I was led to God by a Citadel man. And I, really sort of cite him as being one of the folks that helped me get strong in my faith. And going through that experience tested every bit of faith and ounce in God that I had. And that sort of defines who I am today. But it was hard, a very difficult experience.
Now, your dad was a brigadier general. Is your father still alive?
Yes, he is.
What did he?
Army general. Mm-hmm.
What has he said about you running for Senate? What are his thoughts?
Well, he generally tells me no on everything that I do, and usually when he says no, I actually go forth and then go do those things and be successful. But what he did this time, I was expecting him to say no, and just like when I went to the Citadel, have him list out all the reasons why I shouldn't do it. But instead, he opened up his phone book and said, "Here, call my hunting buddies." And nice. So that was one of the first times he said, "Okay, Nancy, I'll get behind you on this, because when I decided to go to Citadel, I didn't tell my parents I was going until after I was accepted.
Oh.
And when I told my mom, the first thing she told me says, "You need to tell your father." I mean, he's a retired general. He's the most decorated graduate of the Citadel. He's seen 3 tours of combat. And he was tough on us growing up, which taught us the value of hard work and self-reliance. And so I didn't talk to my parents about this until a few weeks ago, because I thought he would say no, but he didn't. He actually opened up his Rolodex and said, "Here, call my friends." So I was pleasantly surprised by that.
Let me get to some of the questions from our Twitter accounts. My producer Skip Lacomb's been going through them. We figured we'd give people a chance to get to know you.
Yeah, Nancy,
Sure.
you'd said earlier about the systematic problems in D.C. and people going and kind of drinking the Kool-Aid and getting changed. Edgar wanted to know what you think, or why you think a conservative state like South Carolina has put up with Lindsey Graham for so long, doing the wrong things.
Well, I have no idea how Senator Graham has gotten elected in our state. I mean, I look at the history that we have of sending conservative leaders to D.C., and I look at Senator Jim DeMint, I look at Tim Scott, and that's the leadership that I would, follow and emulate up there. And for us, I don't know that there have been many choices in this race. I don't know that he's had much of a strong primary in the past, and he has a lot of money. He has $6.3 million. I mean, he is a machine. He raised more money last year from special interests than I think anyone else in Congress except for one. And to dive in and jump off the cliff and go against the establishment and go against someone who has all of that money is intimidating. It's not going to be easy, which is why I'm going to need support not only from people around South Carolina, but from around the country in order to be successful. I mean, this is going to be an uphill battle.
Well, what is your game plan with that? I mean, do you have a solid plan in place to take down this Lindsey Graham machine that's already working?
Yeah, I mean, we're working on that now, and we're working on it every day between now and June 10th. We've got a team of people, and we have been contacted by thousands of people in South Carolina and around the country asking to help and asking to jump in and asking about what they can do. And so for me, it's not going to be about the money, but, a $5 from someone's living room versus a $5,000 check from the lobby is better, because those folks sitting in their living room can vote and the lobby can't. And it takes more than money to win a Republican primary in South Carolina. So what we're going to have to do is build a statewide network. And we've been overwhelmed by the response of people. So it's going to take us a couple of days to get back to everyone, but we're building that network right now, because that's what it's going to take. No one in this race is going to raise the kind of money that he has in order to be successful. I don't want to see anyone buy this race. And we're going to roll up our sleeves, and we're going to work very hard every day between now and the primary.
Talking with South Carolina Senate candidate Nancy Mace. Nancy, you probably heard us mention that hashtag on Twitter. You might want to, after the show, go through and even respond to some people. If you're up to it, I'm assuming you have a Twitter account. Could be a good thing. Skip has one more. I think we just got two.
Yeah, two. Stephen Sexton just tweeted in, what do you consider to be the single greatest threat to the U.S. today?
Freedom. And I think it cuts both ways. I think that our freedoms are threatened here at home. We have career politicians and an administration who is fighting to take away our freedoms. And then we have the threat of radical Islam. We have terrorists who don't want us to have any freedom. And so that's what I believe to be the greatest threat facing our country.
The challenges to freedom. Okay, I'll give you that.
Yeah.
I would say that's probably, in general, a pretty fair answer. Someone else tweeted in and wanted to know about term limits. Would you ever be in favor? You willing to go on record and say you would term limit yourself?
Yesterday. I would term limit myself. I went on record yesterday with that, and I'm going to put my money where my mouth is.
Okay. What do you think is a reasonable term limit?
Well, I mean, in the Senate, I'm going to go on a limb and say 2 terms.
Okay.
Senator Graham, he served 2 terms now, and I think it's time for change. I think it's time that we send new leadership up there. I look at the Tea Party caucus, and I look at Rand Paul, Ted Cruz, and Mike Lee, and they need someone who's going to be up there to support their efforts. And just for instance, a couple of days ago or last week, The issue of Obamacare came up, and those folks want to defund it. I think you need to defund it and repeal it, just get rid of it altogether entirely. But one of the things that Senator Graham said about that effort was the effort to defund it was a bridge too far. And I'm sorry, what world are we living in when that's too far? Nobody wants Obamacare.
You know, we begin to some real hard-hitting questions in with that hashtag Ask Nancy Mace. This one is really interesting. When eating on the taxpayer dime, will you be hitting the dollar menu?
Right. Well, hopefully I won't be eating on the taxpayer dime. I mean, that's just part of, I look at Mick Mulvaney and Mark Sanford and Trey Gowdy and those guys and Rand Paul and Ted Cruz and what they've done to save the taxpayers' money. It's very admirable. Some of those folks have actually returned money back to the taxpayers during their time in office.
What
I would want to do.
What are your thoughts on the Rand Pauls that are taking more of the libertarian stance on things? That we need to focus more on fiscal conservatism, and when it comes to stuff like even the military. I mean, you're a military child, and obviously you went to the Citadel. About saying we need to be less involved in some of the affairs of the world?
Well, I think that our foreign policy is adrift. I think that we haven't been a steadfast friend of our allies. I think our enemies are emboldened by that. I do believe, and I agree with much of what that is said, I believe that the vast majority of Americans, they don't want to send F-16s and jets to the Muslim Brotherhood. They don't want to fund, arm, or aid Syrian rebels who behead Catholic priests and who sympathize with al-Qaeda and have the Taliban fighting alongside them in Syria. So I think that we have to take a long, hard look at our foreign policy in this country, because part of that is, too, is that I think that the strongest foreign policy we can have is having a very strong, probably the strongest national defense in the world. And we're going broke right now, and we're weakened by that.
All right, I'm gonna, before we let you go here, I'm gonna do a little lightning round question with you. I think these will be fairly easy for you. You can just answer in the affirmative or the negative.
You don't have to go easy on me. I'm not asking for any favors.
No. I'm just saying I think these ones should be by easy I mean a definitive yes or no. I don't think these probably require it. And these are answers from some things as I see from failures of dirtbag politicians, rhinos, Lindsey Graham. Although, wait a minute, I'm being redundant. But regardless, okay, here we go. All right, Nancy Mace, have you ever tweeted naked pictures of yourself?
No.
Have you ever hired a prostitute?
No.
Have you ever groped or sexually harassed an employee?
I hope not.
That wasn't real definitive there. I'll give you a chance to answer that one again. Have you ever groped or?
I have a sick sense of humor. So no.
Okay. Are you a rhino?
No, and not yet, and I hope never will be.
All right, Nancy Mace, do you say one thing and do another?
No.
Will you actually follow the Republican platform?
I'm going to follow the Constitution.
Do you support legalizing illegals?
I don't support amnesty, no.
Do you support an oppressive carbon tax?
No.
Do you support Obamacare?
No.
Do you support NSA spying on law-abiding citizens?
No.
Okay,
Y'all do know I'm running against Senator Graham, right?
Yeah, those seemed rather targeted. You caught that, did you? You caught that those were really specific.
It's kind of like the idea that, I would be a rhino or that I would side on the side of Senator Graham and all this it's sort of a ridiculous argument. I'm running against Senator Graham. I'm running against the establishment. I'm running against Washington. And that is what I'm doing.
All right. Well, we appreciate you joining us. You're welcome back if you have anything else you'd like to share in the future. And like I said, go through and look at those tweets that people sent. We're using hashtag Ask Nancy Mace is what we're doing.
Yeah. In fact, Nancy, do take a look at that. In fact, a lot of people are offering some advice to you too. So that's cool, probably would be a good thing to take a look at.
All right. Thanks so much, guys. Thanks for having me on.
All right, Nancy. Appreciate it. South Carolina Senate candidate Nancy Mace, some more information about her. So she's on record as saying she's never tweeted naked pictures or hired a prostitute or whatever. But, You know, Anthony Weiner said that, and Elliot Spitzer said that, you know.
See, now Nancy's going to have a full investigation, spend $75,000 of South Carolina's money investigating how these tweets never appeared on her account.
But at least she's on record as saying, no, that's never happened. You can still send those out to her. Hopefully she'll take a look at them. Use that hashtag #AskNancyMace. This is the Morning Blaze.
Not a puppy, a ninja, a dancing bird, or an angry kitty. Just a talking doc. This is the Morning Blaze with Doc Thompson on the Blaze Radio Network.
Mercury.
You're listening to The Morning Blaze with Doc Thompson.
All right, continue to send those hashtags Ask Nancy Mace. Maybe she'll get to yours. We made her aware of them. Let's get to some calls, 888-900-3393. Andy in Massachusetts, how are you?
Good, Doc. How are you?
I'm doing well, sir.
How's it going?
Hey, good, thanks. Hey, I had an idea. You guys are talking about Detroit. Bear Grylls has a new show out. It's called Get Out Alive with Bear Grylls. I think next season should be Get Out of Detroit Alive with Bear Grylls.
You know what? There's a lot of those shows where these people go off into the wilderness and try to survive for, you know, days on end with only a knife or something. You could do the same thing in Detroit there. Just drop them off, you know, middle of Detroit, right down there, and just say, see how long you can survive.
Yeah, you know, they could be like, you know, for today's challenge, you must build a barrel fire. Imperative to laze the hate.
Well, you know what? That building a fire in Detroit's probably not a challenge because you could just go and get a spark off of one of the many smoldering buildings. But yeah, finding food, protecting yourself, that's excellent, Andy. I really appreciate the comments. Thanks so much for the support. 888-900-3393 if you've got any comments and questions. We got a lot of other tweets coming in. Get those in for the hashtag What I Learned Today. What I Learned Today. By the way, folks, if you missed Glenn's interview with Nancy Mace, and I figured since Glenn took the more serious route yesterday with some of the things that I'm obviously also very concerned about with any candidate as well, I figured we'd have a little fun and let you know a little bit more about her background and personality. Listen to Glenn's interview at theblaze.com, and you can listen to any of the shows on the Blaze Radio Network there as well. You can find podcasts or recordings of our show at theblaze.com/Doc Thompson. We've brought all those together. Yeah, they're at Stitcher.com and SoundCloud.com and Apple iTunes, but you can find them right there. Some of your friends and family that may be less tech savvy, like many people I know, just direct them to go to theblaze.com/Doc Thompson, and when they type that in, you can see the list of all the past shows, and then explain to them, because we've got to explain the new technology using old technology. Explain to them it's just like using an old tape recorder where you got a play, rewind button. It has the date for each show, and then you just click on play, and you get the entire show. So please, if you would, I humbly ask you to forward that information to your family and friends as we try to build this network, a network that you can be proud of, that is based on truth, getting the information out, and the things you believe in. This is The Morning Blaze.
You're listening to The Morning Blaze with Doc Thompson
on the Blaze Radio Network. Mercury.
The Blaze Radio Network. Headlines.
Hey, I got to ask you about this. Everyone is concerned about these embassy closings.
U.S. embassies and consulates continue to be closed this Wednesday morning due to an al-Qaeda threat. Yet President Obama not holding a news conference at the White House. Instead, he incredibly goes on the Jay Leno show on NBC. He talks about his 52nd birthday, lunch with Hillary Clinton, gaze at the Russian Olympics. And Jay then asks him about the terrorist threat.
How significant is this threat?
Well, it's significant enough that we're taking every precaution. We had already done a lot to bolster embassy security around the world, but especially in the Middle East, North Africa, where the threats tend to be highest. And whenever we see a threat stream that we think is specific enough that we can take some specific precautions within a certain time frame, then we do so.
George W. Bush having a stent put in. Here's the Blaze Radio's Kay Long.
Former President George W. Bush in the hospital. Doctors finding a blockage in one of his arteries. A Bush spokesman saying doctors inserted a stent during a procedure at Texas Health Presbyterian Hospital in Dallas. The blockage discovered during Bush's annual physical. The spokesman saying the blockage was opened with no complications. 67-year-old Bush expected to be discharged Wednesday. He's said to be in good spirits and anxious to get home.
It's been almost a year, but indictments finally filed against the thug terrorists behind the Benghazi attack on 9/11 of last year. Here's the Blaze Radio's Chris Barnes.
CNN, NBC News, and the Wall Street Journal all say unspecified counts have been filed for the attack that killed Ambassador Chris Stevens and 3 other Americans. CNN claiming the charges name Ahmed Abu Khattala, a Libyan militia leader.
And I'm Robin Walensky for TheBlaze.com. Don't miss Glenn Beck coming up in just 30 minutes. Now more with Doc Thompson in the Morning Blaze on the Blaze Radio Network.
The news you need from the Blaze Radio Network.
The Morning Blaze with Doc Thompson. 888-900-3393.
If you are new to the Blaze Radio Network and the Morning Blaze, throughout the program, we ask you what you've learned. So if you tweet at us, use the hashtag #WhatILearnedToday. What have you learned so far? What I learned today. Use that hashtag, get them in now, and then Skip will include them at the end of the program if deemed worthy. So use the hashtag #WhatILearnedToday. It's also fun to go back through and look at some of them in the past, but get those now. Just tweet at Doc Thompson Show and at Skip Lacombe. Mike Opalka will be coming up from the Blaze Newsroom in just a second. I need to do this, though, first.
What are you doing, dude? Go to...
Hang on. Mike can wait. Mike, give us a second here. I just want to make sure to clear something up here. I just want to make sure to clarify. I don't want to get the wrong idea. I'm very concerned about it.
I can't answer the phone right now. Please leave a
10
message
seconds.
and
I
I'll
got
get
10
back to you
seconds.
as soon as possible.
I just want to say that unlike Skip, I think your interview yesterday of Nancy was brilliant, of Nancy Mace. I think it was brilliant, Glenn. Spectacular. Unlike Skip, who's been critical.
That's not...
There it is.
You
Okay,
can't
good.
let that one...
What? You've been very critical of his interview.
Now you're going to make me call Glenn after this.
I'm just setting the record straight. I didn't want misunderstanding.
I have not been critical of his interview.
You've not been critical?
What gives you that impression?
The fact that you were being critical.
I was not being
You
critical.
said to me, you said, well, he was a little rough on her there or something.
That's not being critical. I was a little rough on her.
You're a little worried about that? Is that what you're...
Full disclosure, if Glenn asks me how my soul is, I don't know if I'm going to know how to answer right away.
Okay, let me try this again. Then hang on. I feel bad for you, Skip. I don't want to misrepresent you. Let me dial this up again. Here we go. In fact, it's all yours. You can go ahead and
Hi, this is Glenn. I can't answer the phone right now. Please leave a message and I'll get back to you as soon as possible.
It's all
Glenn,
yours.
I
Go
just
ahead.
wanted
It's all
to
yours,
clarify that Doc earlier was saying I was critical of your interview. That really was not true. I was simply stating to Doc when we were traveling yesterday that we didn't get to hear the interview. So, jeez!
I told you, at 10 seconds, man. It's not easy. Michael Palka joins us from the Blaze Newsroom. What are you guys working on?
Just a second. Yeah, Glenn, I'll get back to you after I talk to Doc. Thanks.
See, he takes your calls.
Hi, what's going on, guys?
Hey, what's going on, Mike? What's happening? What are you guys working on in the Blaze Newsroom there?
Oh,
Anything
man,
happening?
what a morning. And I appreciate you mentioning the Amtrak story earlier. I combined some of the stuff you brought up and posted the picture of that urban assault vehicle on the Blaze blog this morning.
Oh, good. I'm glad you reminded me of that. We had talked about give people the background of when you noticed this. This was Monday morning?
Monday morning before dawn, I get on a train from Delaware to New York City. It's on the Northeast Corridor, the most traveled route on the Amtrak, 40 different lines in the country. And
so you're saying 17 people travel that then, since it's the most traveled?
11, sometimes 12.
12, okay.
But it actually goes from D.C. to Boston, and it's very heavily trafficked. And on Monday morning, I noticed this gigantic RV outside of the station. It has never been there, and I ride the train weekly for the last 3 years. Never seen it. A massive thing with camera towers coming out of the top, and it says Amtrak Mobile Command Center. I get on the train, and I notice where there's usually one cop walking up and down the aisles of the train. It's about a 10-car train. There are now cops in every car wearing bulletproof vests, and they are armed. They have sidearms. And where there's typically one officer and a bomb-sniffing dog walking up and down the train, there were 3 different teams on this train Monday morning. And I thought, okay, Al-Qaeda, that threat has got these guys showing a little more muscle. And when I returned last night, the giant vehicle was still there. And as one of your callers said, there were additional officers stationed outside the perimeter of the building, which I've never seen before. And I asked the parking lot attendant, had she ever seen the giant RV? And her response was, no, it's only been there the last 2 days, and we're all scared.
That's really interesting. One of the, we got sketchy reports about this so-called terrorist threat, and they specifically said consulates and embassies and that. But I remember reading one of the quotes from one of the insiders saying, well, we don't know exactly. It could be that. It could be an airport. And the last word was, or trains, which was really interesting. They didn't say buses or bridges or whatever, but they threw trains in, and then you told me you saw all of that. Was pretty interesting.
Yeah, the trains are something that I've always wondered how long it would take the TSA to get their hands on, because you look at the amount of train and public transit that are used, especially in the Northeast Corridor and high-density cities like Chicago, and there is no TSA involvement in that yet. And in New York, we occasionally see stop and frisk on the subways. And when I wear the T-shirt that says I pack that I got from a gun range in Las Vegas, I've been stopped in Penn Station and asked to open my bag. But generally, we don't see it. And now we're starting to see it. As you pointed out, the New York Times story, Ron Nixon's story about the platform searches that are going on. And they call them special needs searches, which means they don't have to have probable cause. They can just say, I want to do this, so you have to comply.
That is incredibly scary from anybody who appreciates freedom. This is not about liberal, conservative, whatever. Everybody should be afraid of when they don't respect probable cause and the rule of law.
It's amazing, and I know we're working on another article to go deeper into what is this Viper program. That's the TSA's program to look at all the people who are on the platforms, and I forget the actual terminology for it. It's
visible intermodal prevention and response.
Rolls off the tongue, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's right there, Mike. Have you ever used the word intermodal? In your life, other than in a story where you're reading what somebody else wrote, have you ever used that?
No, I don't even have an idea of what the thesaurus might offer me when I click on intermodal is it intermodal or intermodal?
Oh, is it modal? It might be modal.
Let's see what the OED
is.
Says.
It modal?
Intermodal.
Okay, that doesn't help me any.
They're giving me I got nothing in terms of thesaurus, but they're saying involving 2 or more different modes of transportation in conveying
Okay, maybe
goods.
It's intermodal. Maybe that's a. But even so, Mike, does it sound like there's a possibility there that they use that word just to get an I for Viper?
Yeah, somebody's going, hey, we need an I in this.
What do we do? We get an intermediate. No, we're going to do a long time. We don't want to limit ourselves, temporary, anything like that. Intermodal. I don't know what it means. Go with it.
Yeah, the acronym department's going, yeah, we'd like to use Viper or Fist. Come up with something so it can be, it's our new Iron Fist program.
Hammer, something that's, shows it's strong, something like that. Did you see?
Amazing, isn't it? But I do wonder if this is justification for growing the TSA even bigger than it is now, and Homeland Security even larger. Because you said, as Nixon pointed out, this Viper program has $100 million a year budget.
Just the Viper, not Homeland Security, not TSA, just Viper, $100 million. They've grown, Mike, from the statistics I saw, that they've grown over the years from initially 10 teams with just a handful of people in each team to now several hundred people in just the Viper program and 37 teams.
Yeah, these guys went from being the X-Files in the basement of the TSA building, with 6 or 7 crazy people, and now they've got $100 million, 37 teams, hundreds of people. Does anyone wonder why folks are nervous about the growth of, especially the militarization of the government-sponsored police force? It is nerve-wracking.
Well, and now that we know they're not limited to even transportation because they've been to rodeos and music concerts and stuff like that. They were at the conventions, the Democrat and Republican conventions.
Yes, they were.
It was claimed by Janet Napolitano that the Department of Homeland Security does not have to have warrants if they're within 100 miles of any U.S. border, which is most of the country, most of the people living in America. It's like 70% of the people.
Yeah, the majority of folks do live within 100 miles of the border. It's the interior that doesn't need to be monitored, but this now justifies basically if you're anywhere within 100 miles of the border, you're potentially a suspect, and if we call it special needs, we don't need probable cause.
Very scary.
I wonder where Rand Paul is on this, because I'm sure he will bring the libertarian freedom perspective to this. I think it's very important.
And I hope he does. I really hope this is crazy. I understand protection. I understand making sure we're secure, but there's a couple of things. Number one, they have showed their failures over and over, and number two, it's not worth giving up your privacy for and your personal freedoms.
And I wonder when people are going to react, because we've seen the stop and frisk reactions in New York, and Bloomberg's a proponent of stop and frisk, but a lot of the communities who've been saying they've been profiled in Harlem and in Brooklyn, let's say the black communities and some of the Hispanic communities, are tired of the profiling. But if this gets on public transit, if you start seeing people on municipal buses, subway systems, and on the Amtrak and regional trains, will people start saying this is profiling and we need to stop it?
No, you're absolutely right. And Skip brought up the possibility earlier with me off the air. He said, is this just, are they just using this to continue to build up support for the NSA spying and all of these others? Because you've got NSA spying, you've got the navigators in Obamacare, you've got the slush fund in the Gang of Ocho bill, you've got all of these different agencies that just continue to grow and grow to spy and watch on us. You've got the DEA that's giving people our personal information, and then local law enforcement recreate the circumstances. Is this claim of a terror attack just justification to continue this stuff?
Is this the security force that's just as well funded, just as large, just as well trained as the American military, the one that the president spoke about?
That's a great point when he said all that. What else is happening at the Blaze?
Well, we're covering the president's visit to Jay Leno last night, the first time a sitting president showed up on the Tonight Show. But we also have a follow-up to that is coming out very soon. I don't know if you were aware that the president failed a geography test last night.
No, I didn't see it. What did he do?
And you'll see this. It was I got to give a hat tip to your Blaze Radio pal, Joe Pags, who called
Joe
this.
Pags.
Leno was asking the president about infrastructure and is this a partisan issue? And the president said, we need to find a financing mechanism to go forward and fix our bridges, our roads, our sewer system, and our ports. And then he referenced the Panama Canal, saying that Panama is widening their canal so that these super tankers can come in.
Right.
And he said, if we don't deepen our ports along the Gulf in places like Charleston, Savannah, and Jacksonville, those big ships are going to go somewhere else. Now, let's do the geography on this.
Yeah.
The Gulf. The Gulf Coast
Let's see, Gulf. The Gulf would be along the Gulf of Mexico. You've got a little bit of Texas there. You would got them going from. You've got Mississippi. You've got Alabama and Florida. That's pretty much it.
You have Louisiana. You have the Houston Ship Channel, which is, I think, the second largest shipping port in the country. You have Louisiana and its various ports where oil comes in and out.
Now, although Jacksonville is Florida, that's on the East Coast there. That wouldn't be Gulf Coast.
Yeah, oddly enough, Jacksonville, Savannah.
Savannah's not either. That's on the East
Savannah,
Coast,
Georgia. You're talking about East Coast all along the Atlantic Ocean, and I didn't know we were needing to dredge the Atlantic Ocean and deepen that area.
Yeah, to get in the Gulf of Mexico. Give me those three again. The three you said.
The three that he specifically mentioned,
Yeah.
Charleston, South Carolina, Savannah, Georgia, and Jacksonville, Florida.
Now, my question, which of the 57 states are those in? I mean, Jacksonville is Florida. I'm trying to go down the list. Jacksonville's Florida, and then the Georgia. Okay, I'm just trying to figure out which of the states he was referencing.
Just imagine had Mitt Romney made that mistake during the last convention.
Well, and the problem is, even the 57 states one, was just kind of a slip of the tongue because he was trying to count to get to 50. But this one, it doesn't sound as much like a slip of the tongue as a lack of geographical information on our ports. That seems tricky.
Yeah, and will the media point it out? I don't know. But we have various coverage on the president's appearance last night on Leno. And we've got his discussion of the NSA program. You can hear him say that we really don't have a domestic survey. We're not spying on Americans. We don't
of
have
course
a
not.
Domestic surveillance program. That's not happening.
All right, Mike Opalka, I appreciate you joining us, and thanks so much for breaking bread with us the other night.
I was
Good time
say,
as all.
it's always a delight when you pick up the check. I love that.
Isn't that nice? Isn't that good? Wait a minute, I picked that up?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, that's the last time I have the third beer.
Yeah, thank you, Don.
Oh, my golly, I didn't realize that. I got to go back through my wallet. All right, Mike Opalka, the Blaze Newsroom, buddy. Thanks so much.
Fellas.
All right, that stuff and more up at the Blaze. Don't forget to check that out. We get a quick break in. This is last call now. Last call for your What I've Learned Today. So check that out. Go to Twitter, tweet at Doc Thompson Show and at Skip Lacombe. Use the hashtag What I Learned Today. Get them in now. We'll do them next on The Morning Blaze.
The Morning Blaze with Doc Thompson. Mercury. The Morning Blaze with Doc Thompson.
All righty, that is it, ladies and gentlemen, the end of the Doc Thompson Show. But before we go, as always, let's find out what we learned today. We learned that apparently Bill Lumbergh is Detroit's new financial manager. Bill Lumbergh from Office Space, see what I did there?
Yeah, we're going to need you to come in on
Saturday. We're not sure who's working. We learned that when you don't have the education, experience, or intelligence to become a mall cop, there are still opportunities at the TSA. Wow. We learned that South Carolina Senate candidate Nancy Mace hopes she has never sexually harassed an employee.
She's not sure.
But we are sure that her soul is good.
Yes.
We learned that Skip is critical of Glenn Beck's interview of her. We learned that contraband will now be stopped 7% of the time at bus stations and rodeos. Just
awesome.
7%.
That's awesome.
We learned that the only law enforcement that Paul Blart and Barney Fife are allowed to mock is the Transportation Security Administration officers.
Even they think those guys are idiots.
We learned that if you like murderous thugs, find yourself in Oakland, California. We learned that 40% burned out streetlights, 60 years of political corruption, and now bankruptcy. Pure Detroit. We learned that Northern Virginia is for lovers of communism.
That's a good one.
Give me that one with the good one.
I
Skip
like that
Lacombe,
one.
producer, what, if anything, did you learn today?
I learned based on last night's tweets, Mike Opelka is likely to face additional screening by the TSA.
Likely, meaning definitely.
So I learned failed your cop exam, never fear. The TSA is perfect for you.
They're waiting.
Yes.
Pure TSA.
I learned I would have likely been way better at math in 6th grade if Mrs. Blunt was packing heat.
Well, you would have been afraid she was going to shoot your face off. You didn't.
Paid better attention, probably. I learned New Mexico is changing the state slogan from Land of Enchantment to Still Cleaner Than Old Mexico. And finally...
Do you know what I like about that? That offends everybody.
I know.
New Mexico, Old Mexico, everybody.
Still cleaner than Old Mexico, though. And finally, I learned Nancy Mace has a sick sense of humor. So does Lindsey Graham.
Yeah, but a different type of sick sense of humor.
I'm hoping at least.
Hers is actually humor.
Yes.
His is an attempted.
His is lying.
His is just lying.
Yeah, I'm a Republican.
All right, Cal, spinning the dials, radio style in New York City this morning. What, if anything, did you learn?
I learned that the TSA Viper team really have no use, and it's just a bunch of ex-mall cops trying to look cool in SWAT gear they'll never, ever get to use.
Yeah.
That's true. The new slogan for Detroit: get your military combat training on the streets of Detroit. Pure Detroit.
All right, Skip Lacombe, what, if anything, did the listeners learn today?
All right, Jason learned NINJA equals National Invisible Nocturnal Justice Agency.
I like it. It's the new ninja department of TSA.
By the way, Jason had a ton of good tweets down. We give him a bonus one, too. New Detroit ad. Come to Detroit. Your next trip will be awesome by comparison after visiting here. Anywhere else you go after Detroit will be better. Skip to Zip learned Bob Vila is more dangerous than Wayne LaPierre.
That's good.
Yes, Steve S. learned where a man can be a man. Let me start that over again.
We'll edit it out.
Steve S. learned where a man can be a man and a murderer and a pimp and a racist. Pure Detroit.
Pure Detroit.
Carol learned protesters in Oakland have to leave their hands at home. They could be used as weapons.
That is true. Anything.
Very deadly. Paula learned Doc gives Carson Daly way too much credit. Saying he's absolutely useless apparently is
too much
giving
credit.
him far too much credit.
Yeah, saying that he's slightly better than Ryan Seacrest, yeah.
Michael R. learned if you're carrying a gun, you could lose your mind at any time.
Any moment.
Yes, indeed. Prendigo learned in Detroit only 33% of the police are actually police. The other
66%
administrators.
We're not sure what they do.
They may not even be there. We don't know.
They could be Vipers with the TSA. They could be TSA ninjas.
Larry G. learned teachers become homicidal maniacs when given guns. What about those assault-style red pens?
What about that?
Yes. Lester learned new TV program for the fall. Detroit Car 54-ish. Where are you? Car 54-ish, 53.
53, we're around here.
I don't know. DM learned if we just keep spending, eventually we'll spend enough money to avoid bankruptcy, right? Hashtag Bearded Spock. Big Daddy-O learned, and for NYC, we have the instant tricycle security for bike share, a.k.a. It's BS. The instant tricycle security for bike share.
Hey, where's the audio ones?
We actually didn't have any today.
Nobody sent us any audio ones via Instagram? Wow, you're really letting me down.
I know. It was.
Yeah, you can send these, folks. When you use the hashtag What I Learned Today, if you want to send audio ones, you can send those and we'll include them. And or you can use the Instagram app, which is real easy to send us audio.
Continuing, Matt W. learned police no longer respond to 911 calls if you're not in immediate critical danger. Hashtag Pure Detroit.
Pure Detroit.
John W. learned mic check.
Mic check.
Mic check.
Mic check.
Unions. Did. This. To. Detroit. Pure Detroit.
Pure Detroit.
Stinky learned Detroit. We're not as bad as Chicago.
For now.
And Stinky had another good one. Our presidents are the fattest. Hashtag Pure Ohio.
Actually, it would be heart of it all. So it would nice, good. I would say something that was Ohio's slogan for years, the heart of it all. Maybe something like this: enlarged heart of it all. So it'd be our presidents are the fattest. Enlarged heart of it all.
Tuffy learned if you're new to the Doc Thompson Show, listen for 2 weeks. If you don't like it after that, get another 2 weeks for free.
Wait a minute, the Blaze Radio Network is always free. Oh, I see what he did there.
Clemson learned Doc and Skip aren't nearly as interested in Nancy Mace's soul as they are barbecue and pizza. Hashtag food is greater than politicians.
Well, you got me there.
Jonathan
you
learned...
had me at barbecue.
Exactly.
You had me at...
Jonathan learned Nancy Mace might actually see her poll numbers increase if her alter ego was Carly Dangerito. Bob Love.
David, no, you got to hit that one again.
Right. Jonathan learned Nancy Mace might actually see her poll numbers increase if she had an alter ego, Carly Dangerito.
That's beautiful.
Bob Blah Blah learned.
Love the Bob Blah Blah.
Food Network's Robert Irvine should do a City Impossible. The pilot can focus on Detroit.
I like it.
Coy learned Nancy Mace does not have a 6-point plan. Ed learned hashtag how to fix Detroit. Send the city managers one of those New Jersey classroom where magic happens. Hashtag Hogwarts. Hashtag Reparo. Dominic learned Nancy Mace is not a wussy bludgeoning object.
No.
Fat Natty Boy learned if you miss 90% of the show and only hear the what I learned, it's impossible to know what the hell's going on.
No, exactly. Go back and listen. Just go to theblaze.com/Doc Thompson for replays. Theblaze.com/Doc Thompson, and you got all the audio up there.
And finally, Jeff learned Doc can't get into trouble for harassing Glenn because he was never giving training. Hashtag Glenn back voicemail.
That's right. I was never told that I shouldn't harass Glenn when I started here.
Was that wrong?
If someone had told me that sort of thing was frowned upon when we started here,
I gotta tell you, previous offices I worked on, that kind of stuff goes on all the time.
All right, we didn't get those new numbers on procrastination. We'll get those tomorrow. What else do we have coming up the big show?
Talking with Robert McInnes, author of Deadly Consequences, about pushing women women in combat.
Oh, folks, I have a great angle on
It's
this.
gonna be great.
Wait till you hear that on tomorrow's show. Again, go to theblaze.com/Doc Thompson for replays of the show. All the podcasts are up there. Have yourself a great day. The Doc Thompson Show is a Skip Lacombe production. Sic Semper Tyrannis. Good night, Steve Cannon. Wherever you are. On Young. Now, you go home. I got to call Glenn when I get off and clean this up. As soon as I'm going to call him right now.
The Morning Blaze with Doc Thompson. Only on the Blaze Radio Network.
Thanks, Cal.